Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kokona, Wisconsin, riding a CST Tires SSI decals traveling back Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Welcome to episode 88 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Shout out to Joel Hetrick on this, our 88th episode. Plenty of Joel Hetrick talk ahead in this one. And this is our Pleasure Valley review show starring newly crowned WMX Champ Kinsey Osborn, your new favorite rider, South Africa's J.L. Opperman, following his first wins since coming here to America. And Impact Solutions Casey Greek will join us to help break down all the craziness from Pennsylvania right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Before we drop the gate on another race review podcast, shout out to all of our incredible partners. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nemura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymara Financial Group, Fourworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrated Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Blenzall Oil, the official oil choice of Digging Deep, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, Walsh Racecraft, Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20, all lowercase, at blenderseyewear.com, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Manscaped's signature line is the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer that I rely on to help keep my beard on point, the best nose hair trimmer ever created, and an array of goodies like deodorant, boxer briefs, a travel bag, and more. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner, and get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. So rad that Manscaped is invested in ATV racing as a longtime partner of Digging Deep. Help us keep them in the fold and involved in ATV racing by using our Digging Deep 20 code so they know that you enjoy digging deep and what we're all about here. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The dog days of the 2022 season are here, but we both know you still need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. By using our specific link, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need. Anyway, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has become my go-to, and it should be yours as well. And did you know that you can buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. No new donors to shout out this week, but a huge shout out goes to all of our monthly donors that include Justin Branham, Rob Bumsteiger, and Oliver Saya. We are so extremely grateful for you guys. And if you are interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Major thanks to all who have donated. You guys freaking rock. Now, it's showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, Pleasure Valley gave us some more killer racing, unpredictable finishes, and plenty to talk about on this week's show. Joining me, as always, to help break down everything that happened in PA is a man that is still just 2 points ahead of me in Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy, because we picked the exact same team this past weekend, and it, in fact, did not perform up to snuff. But nevertheless, brought to you by Blenders Eyewear. You know Blenders by now. You can always catch me in mine. They produce the raddest sunnies for active individuals this summer. Just like us, use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20, all lowercase, at blenderseyewear.com. From Impact Solutions, say hello to Mr. Casey Greek. What's up, Casey?
Hey, Cody, thanks for having me again. Yeah, our fantasy teams are sinking by the minute. But you know what? We got 2 more rounds to rebound, and we're really not all that far out of, say, maybe like the top 10 when you really look at it. I sat and studied it last night,
Right.
and it's got me fired up. So we'll see what we can do there.
Yeah, I had been on a pretty good run, but the wheels fell off this weekend for sure. So yeah, it wasn't that great. But Casey, so on Friday, we received some news. This is what I want to touch on to start us off here. We received some news on Friday. It was some big news. You're going to be wrenching for Bryce Ford when Team USA heads to the Czech Republic for the 2022 Quad Cross of Nations event in September. Congrats on a hell of an honor, Casey. You have to be absolutely stoked.
Yeah, Cody, it's a huge, honor to be able to go over there and represent the country. To go over there with a rider like Bryce is, a big deal to me. It's a big part of, an accomplishment in my career. And with Mark Baldwin being Bryce's mechanic, and he's obviously the team manager, when Bryce called, I thought, never even second guessed it. It was just like instantaneous. Yeah, I'm going. Whether I'm going to go and be his mechanic or go over and be a suspension guy, whatever it is, it was a no-brainer for me just to be there and have the honor to represent this country in that fashion. So super excited to go over there and get this done. And I don't think we could have a better team, overall. Gary can't go. His baby's actually due that weekend.
Okay.
So Jim's going to go. Jim Hardy's going to go in Gary's place. We got Michael Bird going as Chad's mechanic. So just a great group of guys. And I think a really important and good asset to the team this year is going to be JB from JB Racing. I think that's going to be cool to have him over there. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's been in this industry for a very long time. And, he knows how to strategize, say mechanically, if, we're up against something, or he can step in and help any one of us at any time. And every one of us will trust him to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. When you look at the group of guys that's been put together, I can't imagine a better grouping. So yeah, that's exciting. So obviously wrenching for Team USA, what a giant honor for you, Casey. I don't know if you touched on it there. Fill me in a little bit on how you were approached for the role and your emotions surrounding it. We know, we know that, you've done some wrenching, since you won that title with Natalie over a decade ago. But tell me a little bit more. I mean, it's almost got to be exciting for you to get thrown back into the fire a little bit. We know you have some competitive juices. We know that those are things that, even mechanics deal with. Like, that's got to be something that you're really looking forward to, not just going to the races as a suspension guy, like you've been doing for so many years, like throw me to the fire and let me do this thing one more time.
Yeah, most definitely. It was Bryce just called me. And, originally when he called, I thought he was asking me to go over and be his suspension guy. And he was like, no, I want you to come over and be my mechanic. I'm like, okay. Obviously the nervousness comes up right away because there's a lot of weight on your shoulders there instantly. Right. But for me, it's like riding a bike. So to get behind the wrenches again and do that side of it, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for me. And, I've already been kind of getting back to it a little bit, doing little things here and there. I've been talking with Mark a bunch at the races and kind of seeing what he's doing in between motos, with the new YFZs and stuff like that, just so I can make sure I'm up to snuff, when we get over there and get down to business. So yeah, the approach, all I could really say is just honored. And, I can respect the crap out of Bryce for thinking of me right off the bat. Like, that's what he wants, who he wants to go and be his mechanic when there's so many other people around and so many other guys that he could choose. And so I think that says a lot for my relationship with him and that entire program over there.
Well, it's pretty exciting. Like, it's pretty cool for me, from my perspective, to see like how quickly you integrated yourself into that whole program, right? Because it wasn't long ago that Bryce was a new addition for you. And now look where you are. You were the guy that he chose. I mean, that's, again, like from my perspective, that's just pretty damn cool. And it's a testament to you, Casey.
Yeah. And the history with, myself, Impact Solutions, and the Ford program, with Bryce and Cody and everyone over there goes way back, honestly. I mean, even when I was running the Maxxis truck, during the winter, I'd fly down and help the boys, during the winter while they were doing their off-season training. And so, like, our relationship's always been there. There was a couple of years where we weren't working together suspension-wise, but, obviously we got back to that. And so, to me, it was like we never left off almost.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship that we have. But at the same time, I think there was a huge maturing period from, the 2 years or a year and a half or so that we weren't working together, say suspension wise. There's a lot of maturity that had went on in, all of us, myself included, Bryce, Cody, everyone. We all grew as people and racers and professionals. And so it's just made it honestly a dream in that sense. And, we all, I have so many riders that I love to death. And, to have the relationship I have with Bryce and Cody, and then like Jeffrey Rastrelli, Logan Stanfield, these guys, Nick Janusa, like they trust me. And so I think coming from Bryce's aspect of it, I think that's where he sees it like, okay, I know he knows how to read me. I know he can obviously do the job. That's who I need in my corner. So it's pretty cool.
And I think that you have a calming sense. I mean, you bring a ton to the table, but you got a calming sense about you as well. And not arrogance isn't the right word, but you always seem like you know what you're talking about, especially when it comes to suspension. So you're a great asset to that thing. And that's amazing, man. Congrats again. Cannot wait for all the conversations leading up to and following this incredible event. Obviously having you on the inside, this is going to be so much fun to talk about, and really looking forward to that. But tonight, we're going to focus on Pleasure Valley. And Casey, let's kick things off with our Impact Solutions Impact Moment, where we highlight something good and positive happening in ATV motocross. What do you have for us this week from the races, Casey?
Honestly, I think it's going to go back to the Team USA thing. Just, and again, we always talk about try not to make it about ourselves and stuff like that. But this is like for the whole team. It's been a couple of years since we've been over there due to COVID and all this different stuff going on in the country. So just to see this whole group of guys that band together and, reality really set in. Like I've known for quite some time now that like I was going to go over there and be Bryce's mechanic and go over with the team. And we kind of already knew who the team was going to be, but we did like the press release pictures and stuff Friday morning, and to be standing up there with those guys that like I look up to and respect so much, I think that's where it come down to, where it was really like hit home. And I've done a lot of racing in Europe, been very successful over there with Jeremy Warnia in the past. And like Jeremy, as soon as that press release came out, Jeremy texted me like instantly. I mean, people I haven't heard from in quite a while from like the racing side or even personal life have reached out to me like, hey, congratulations. It's awesome. It's an honor, to have you go to represent our team or to help represent our team. And so I think for me, like, that's where it comes in. Like, there's been a lot of things this season that have kind of hit me home. And I don't know if it's getting older, if it's having kids, or if I'm just getting soft. I don't know what one it is, but it's really cool to see the outreach from people. And I think that's where it really gets to be in that impact moment for me.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Like I said, just looking forward to hearing more about this whole thing, but congrats again to you. Such an honor and just an awesome opportunity for you. For me, I think what I want to touch on there for that Impact Solutions Impact Moment, this has become a thing now for the Ford Brothers Racing team to do the fireworks on the 4th of July at the races. And the reason why I want to touch on that is like, that's, there's a lot of families, a lot of racing families that are spending their holiday at the races. And it's just cool that, they're able to still get in on some of the 4th of July festivities, the fireworks, stuff like that are important to young families, young kids, in those things. So wanted to touch on that. I think that that's a great thing. And, it's not a cheap venture for the Ford Brothers Racing team to do that. So an awesome thing that they did on Saturday night at Pleasure Valley with the fireworks. But getting into the racing on track then, Casey, thoughts on Pleasure Valley? It's a facility that I've always enjoyed dating back to 2008. Jeff Cernick really enjoys his ATVs, which we obviously really appreciate here on our show, of course. Thoughts on Pleasure Valley overall, Casey?
I love Jeff. I love the facility. I feel like it's come a long way in some senses. I remember when, back in the day would go, there was always, the gravel was real big and, your ankles hurt by the end of the weekend and stuff like that. So, I mean, Jeff's always putting it in, and to tell people how much, these track owners and promoters and all these guys always get sort of like a bad rap. Oh, they don't care about anyone but themselves. One thing I seen this weekend is, we had some intense battles going on, especially like that second moto. Joe was coming through the pack, and Jeff Cernick was in the tower with us, and he was like Facebook Live or Instagram Live, whatever it was, and he was hooting and hollering like a child, like a fan of what was going on the track as he's yelling into his phone as he's filming the race. And so I think when people want to badmouth these track owners because they have different rules or regulations or, we can't read their minds, I think people need to step back and think about what I'm saying. That's how excited he was. I mean, he was up there like the biggest fan in the world running around. And when he's got a million things going on all around him that he's got to try to encapsulate and keep in control. And let's face it, like, we're all racers, so we're all a little wild, right? So now you put us all inside of a fence and you got to keep us all somewhat straight and narrow. So just really cool to see that side of it. So I think for me, I have a lot of really good memories at Pleasure Valley over the years. Yeah. Doug's last race he ever won as a professional was there. The first Can-Am overall win was there with John. So it's always been a good place to me. So I like it. I wish at times we could have ended up with a better track this weekend, and we'll get into that here as we go.
Yeah, for sure. So touching on Jeff there, I feel like it's really cool because even leading up to the event, he, put it out there, continued to put it out there about the ATVs being faster than the bikes last year on his track and stuff. I love to see an owner that's prideful about that. But yeah, I mean, rain overnight had things a little sloppy. And I think that we saw, kind of the effects of that throughout the day in the form of, one-lined racetrack. But rain overnight had things a little sloppy for that first session, right, Casey? It really produced some odd times in that first session. And, we saw as the pros took to the track for the first time, like mud was again a factor, and it kind of threw us some curveballs, Casey, when looking at the results in that first session. But again, mud and rain, like that kind of thing seems to be a topic each and every weekend, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the year of 2013 all over again. At some point, we're getting rain every weekend. For the most part, Texas, it didn't rain. And there was one other one. I don't think we got a whole bunch of rain, but yeah, it rained overnight, 2 pretty good showers. I think the second one woke me up about 4 a.m. and I kind of waited it out, just laying there in the motorhome. And I'm like, oh man, but they did roll the track in, and it seemed like when the first couple of bikes went out for practice, it didn't look like, or seem like it was gonna be that bad. Obviously there's some valleys there that are pretty, that obviously is going to retain some water down there. The clay, it's hard. So it's going to retain some water. But it ended up almost going backwards initially. And then they get out and do a little bit of work to it and made a lot of the faces of the jumps a little bit goofy. And, the triple coming into the rhythm section by the finish line was really tough right off the bat. So, yeah, our times that we've seen in the first qualifier, we all kind of discussed it like it's going to get better. There was, slight chances of rain during the day, but it was relatively warm most of the day and stuff like that. So we knew the track was going to come around. I really thought by the first moto, it was going to be probably the best Pleasure Valley we've ever had. And it was not by the first moto. By the second moto, the track had come around quite a bit. The track crew worked on it quite a bit. And then we had some option lines and some different passing lines to where I felt like that was a good racetrack. And it's not like the track crew's fault or anything that we ended up with a one-line track in the first moto. It's just the amount of moisture that was in the ground, and they could do only so much.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of a combo of things. When you have that much moisture in the track, like obviously everybody gravitates the one drier line. And then also like those big, long, rhythm sections and straightaway stuff like that. It's just people tend to go down the middle, right? Like that's just something that does happen. So Brandon Hogue took the top spot in that first session. But times, like you said, would be 3 seconds faster in the second session as the track came around. But we still saw some results that would make you kind of double take, Casey. Bryce Ford ends up your fast qualifier, followed by Brandon Hogue, Joel Hetrick third, Chad Wienen fourth, and Jeffrey Rastrelli rounded out the top 5. What did you see in that second session, Casey? Kind of give us your thoughts on what you saw there. It was still crazy, even though it had dried up a bit.
Yeah, the track got better. Obviously, we got, way better lap times going, and you're seeing some mix up with these guys, and it's great for the sport. It's unbelievable. We've seen Brandon, cranking off fast laps and qualifying all the time. I mean, obviously in the races too. And then, Bryce, he hasn't had that fastest qualifier this year that I can remember of. And so I think for him, he went out and put in a heater. And I want to say he only rode one complete lap at full speed. And, he would ride sections. And this is just something that Bryce has always done since I've known him. It's just the way he practices a lot of times. He'll ride sections and he puts one full lap together. And he put a full lap together and it was good enough for top qualifier, which was really cool. And it was like mid-session. It wasn't even like late in the session.
Right.
And he it's like, hey, you might want to go. Like, these guys are clicking him off. And he knew. To me, I felt like he knew like it was good enough. And Brandon was right there, and then Joel was right there. I mean, there was 3/10 that separated those top three.
Yeah.
The thing for me is, Chad wasn't. I think Chad was fifth in that time qualifier, I believe.
Fourth.
Or no, he ended up fourth. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was a little bit odd to see Chad right there, but it wasn't like he was like 2 seconds off or something crazy like that. He was right there. So I could tell that we were going to have a racetrack, and I think it's awesome that we're seeing, Brandon and Bryce and different guys getting up there and putting in. It shows us that they have the potential to run the pace of Joel and Chad.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing those younger riders, like you said, just elevate their game little by little. And it seems like they're really building, right? They're getting closer and closer every weekend, which is awesome to see for the sport's sake. So Chad Wienen and Joel Hetrick weren't the top two in qualifying, as we've come to expect after all these years. However, it wouldn't take long for them to be 1 and 2 in that first moto on Saturday. Chad Wienen grabbed the whole shot and ripped out to the early lead, followed by Bryce Ford, Brandon Hogue, and Joel Hetrick. That top four was on top of each other early in that race, Casey. But then quickly, Bryce Ford went down and dropped him from second to last. Did you catch that incident, Casey? What happened there with Bryce Ford early in that first moto?
So from the tower, like, we could see that corner, which is the old finish line, the famous Joe Bird corner with Kramer there. But you couldn't see exactly what had happened. All I seen was, Bryce come up, the step up, made the right. And I've obviously seen the video since, but watching it live, you couldn't tell. And then you seen the flagpole fall over. So you knew he got, he was way inside and he was trying to protect that inside. And I think he just got a little bit over rotated. And then Brandon was right behind him. Because I don't know that Brandon had anywhere to go, but he definitely got into him there just a little bit. And then Joel did the old Digger Doug Gus right around the outside of both of them. He did everything but waved at him. Like, I know he looked over at him like, you knuckleheads, thanks. And then he was gone. So heartbroken for Bryce in that sense. And, it's early in that moto and those guys are all going for it so good and are so hard that early. And like for Chad, Chad starts, man, where did that come from? I think I think he benefited hugely from, maybe his weight on that concrete start, where I think that's somewhere where maybe Joel struggled on the concrete this weekend. Gotcha. I know Joel's pulled plenty of hole shots at Pleasure Valley over the years. So it was really weird to see Joel not getting the starts, but it was awesome. Bryce got a good start. Hogue obviously got 2 good starts. And Chad's starts were on point this weekend. So first moto, was no doubt, but it could really come down to that moto was just one line. Joel caught up to Chad pretty quick there, and they just pushed each other around the track for the whole race pretty much.
Yeah. So not a history there with that incident, going on with Bryce going down and Hogue getting into him and kind of Joel going around the outside. Not at history, which was cool, but it was a tough one for Bryce. Obviously, Bryce would in effect set the pick for Joel to get around Brandon when he got held up just a touch. So now that battle, like you're saying, was on between the top two. And I got nervous a few times, Casey, because they were so close. I feel like there was a few instances where it got a little hairy almost, like they were on top of each other. It's like there wasn't an inch between those guys, but they ended up going 12 laps on top of each other without incident. And, they touched maybe a few times, and it was simply a thing of beauty to see these two legends flying in formation like that. I truly tried to sit back and just not take it for granted, because we've said before, like, we don't see this all the time to see these guys. I know they weren't dicing it up, like going back and forth, but they were on top of each other. And just to see that, who knows how many more of these battles we have over the next, year or two. This is just one of those things where, like I said, I tried to sit back and not take it for granted. Awesome to see. And this is something that, years from now, we're going to remember these types of battles and when those guys rode like that on top of each other like that. And this might be one of those races that stands out to me.
Cody, something that, uses spark there. I was thinking about it during the moto with how close they were to each other. I mean, Joel at times, a couple times during the race which when I was in the tower would be the right-hand section, that rhythm section over there before you drop over the hill. Joe got almost side by side, not quite, but pulled up next to Chad pretty good, but it goes right back into a one-lined right-hand turn to drop down the hill, and you kind of have to do the outside to the inside there to keep your momentum, and just could never execute a pass there. But the thing that I was thinking about is, the other rhythm section, they jump in, triple in, couple smaller sections or a couple smaller jumps, and then a pretty good sized step up the hill. And the trust that those two have to have in each other for being fierce competitors. I mean, two of the fiercest that we've seen, obviously, in the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they don't even, Joel never even flinched. I don't know what's going to happen. Is Chad going to make this triple this lap? Maybe he's thinking that. We'll never know. Right. But I mean, he inches off his grab bar, jumping a pretty technical triple, never even flinched. I mean, if you can respect anything, you got to be able to respect that, because that's insane. To me, there's no way I'm jumping inches off of someone's grab bar.
Right. Well, I thought that too. I was kind of where it stood out to me, and I that section where you're talking about was one of them. The other one was where that old quad was up the middle, kind of before that old finish line corner, like you talked about in the middle of the track there. But that quad coming up, that now just looked to be a step up. I mean, you're grabbing gears, giant straightaway before that thing, and then that, pretty sizable step up there, and they're just on top of each other. And I'm thinking, just like you're saying, I don't know that I've ever had that much trust in anybody I've been around. And obviously these are two of the greatest ever to do it, but the trust, like you said, that they have to be on top of each other and trust that the other person isn't going to make a mistake, a hiccup, anything that's going to take both of you out at a high rate of speed or up in the air or whatever. And again, there was a few times where I went, oh, like when they would land and just be right, right there. I'm like, man, I don't know. It's crazy to see. So just awesome. Again, something that I was just trying to take in the moment, not knowing what was going to happen in the moto, not knowing what was going to happen on the race day, but I just really tried to appreciate that battle while we had it. So Brandon Hogue, Casey, stood out to me on this day. We've been saying that a lot lately. I think it would be hard to argue against the fact that he's been the clear-cut third best guy in the last month or month and a half. That's obviously, I mean, you can't argue with the results that we've seen. And that was clear at Pleasure Valley, especially in that first moto where he stuck right with those leaders. I mean, after 8 laps, he was only a second out of the lead in third. Casey, Brandon Hogue has been on fire.
Yeah, Brandon's riding great. I mean, you can't take nothing from him. He's been turning it up, and got a little bad luck, that he's had on his side this year. We could see a quite a bit different of a picture going on, but yeah. Well, you kind of summed it up there in a sense. There's not a whole lot more you can say. He's been on fire, and my hat's off to Brandon. He's riding great. The whole music team is putting together right now.
Can't you just see? I mean, you can see the kind of the confidence or whatever just building with him. He's a guy that maybe in the past we saw a little bit of ups and downs with. I think that he wore his emotions maybe on his sleeve a little bit more than we're seeing now. And now you can tell that he just feels like he deserves to be up with those guys, or expects himself at least to be up with those guys. And I think that that's kind of what we're seeing from Brandon there. So that was a hell of a run from him. And at the finish then, Chad Wienen held Joel Hetrick at bay for the wire-to-wire win in Moto 1. Joel Hetrick finished in the runner-up spot, followed by Brandon Hogue. A strong fourth was Max Lindquist. Nick Janusa rounded out the top 5, while Bryce Ford raced his way up to 6th after that early incident, and his brother Cody Ford earned an impressive 7th place finish in Moto 1. So moving on to Moto 2 then, I truly assumed that we were going to see a customary Joel Hetrick hole shot in Moto 2, Casey, but we didn't. At the tip of the spear, Chad Wienen ripped another hole shot, but behind him, some of the main contenders had some issues. 2 laps in, Bryce Ford suffered a mechanical failure that resulted in a DNF, so tough break for Bryce. And then late in the opening lap, Joel Hetrick, following a subpar start, for his standards anyway, was attempting to make a pass on Jeffrey Australia and jumped that triple. And we've all seen the video, the Rip It Up Films video at this point, but he was attempting to jump that triple before the finish line, that in a line that nobody had used up to that point off to the left. And the result was a near crash that ended up being the save of the year. How the hell did Joel Hetrick hold on to that thing, Casey? That was unreal, especially when you see the frame by frame. I just can't believe, I mean, the bike control that dude has is just out of control.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how you get to that level. I mean, one, the core strength that those guys have to be at that level, and then two, just the bike control. And I don't almost predicting what direction it was going to go, so he was prepared.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have stalled it, it wouldn't have been nearly as bad. And I mean, I don't blame him for stalling it. He didn't do anything wrong in that situation. It was just hang on and not end up on your lid, because if it would have caught and went that extra little bit, it could have been a much worse crash, or end up in an actual crash, or tipping over or flipping or something like that. So yeah, as we've talked about it with Chad, seeing him turned around backwards, going 50 foot and balancing the bike, even going backwards and keeping the thing running or doing whatever. I mean, that's the control that these guys have over the machine for the most part. And Joel knew, like, if he had a chance, if he wanted to have a chance at beating Chad in this moto, he had the racetrack to do it on. Mm-hmm. There was some lines. He would have been able to make some passes and do some things like that. So he had to go. And yeah, two very uncharacteristic starts for Joel. I think it come down to probably a little bit of a weight thing, in all honesty. Just trying to get, Joel's obviously much lighter than Chad or, some of these other guys, and not getting off of the concrete pad, the greatest. And he took that line, side by side with Jeffrey, and everything looked all well until about midway. And then it wasn't all well anymore. And, he pulled it. He pulled it, though. I mean, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah. So that feeling, and I was watching like I said, we've all seen the Rip It Up Films video by this point, and I can feel that feeling when you hit a face on an ATV and you feel it just frame out and that momentum stopping. And that is like one of the worst feelings, right? So, he's a little crossed up and he knows he's going to be short, and this triple's pretty big, and just knowing that you're not going to make it, I'm sure he, was thinking about, what's going to happen here in his mind. And like you said, he kind of steered into it and knew what the bike was going to do. I mean, again, you see the whips, you see the setting up for corners, you see all the stuff that Joel is so good at, has been so good at his whole career, but saving, near crashes like we saw on Saturday is a strength of his as well. It's unreal. So getting to the racing then, so it took the majority of the moto, Casey, but Joel raced his way from 10th up to second on a relatively one-line track. I know it came around for the second moto, but you still couldn't make passes everywhere. But so he did race up to the pack. It was super impressive. He was turning some really good lap times. And I feel like there was never really any doubt. I mean, even though we saw what happened in the first moto, we saw the top two couldn't get around each other, but at least in my mind, there was never really any doubt that Joel Hetrick was going to get up there, because we know how fast he is at Pleasure Valley and on these types of racetracks in general. To me, there was never really any doubt, Casey.
Yeah, never. I mean, I knew he'd get up there. It was early enough in the moto, and he was a man on a mission. I mean, the pass that he made on Brandon Hogue, I don't know if you guys caught it on the live feed, but the whole crowd just went crazy. Like, you don't typically in racing, you don't come from, I mean, when they got to that section, Joe was probably a bike length and a half behind. He had a line through the first sand section that was really good. And then he set Brandon up on the outside. Brandon did everything right. He went to the inside to protect the inside, made the right-hander. And Joel, when he landed off the roller, I don't think he ever lifted until they went down to the next off-camber left hand or right. So they had to go straight, right-hander, up a sand section, down the sand section, into that left hand. And from the tower, we could see him all the way until they dropped over the second sand section to go into the off-camber. And Joel made the pass in the right-hander, like mid-apex of the corner. And I've been doing this stuff for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I've seen some passes around the outside. I've never seen anything like that. Like, Brandon wasn't going slow. Brandon was still at 100% and was riding, 100% at that point. And Joel was just riding 200%. I mean, it'll give you chills. Like I had chills when I watched it happen. I got chills right now just talking about it. Like,
yeah,
it was insane. And then the very next lap, he come around and did pass Janusa through the first end section, but in the same fashion, like just wide open. He had complete trust in his machine, in himself. And it was like, I asked him after the race, I'm like, dude, that was insane. He's like, what? He had no idea what I was talking about. I'm
Sure.
like, those two passes, like I watched you pass everyone else and it was great. But those two passes will stand out in my mind for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so that's the section that rhythm section, right? Before that rhythm section, there's those two sand sections. You go left, and then that rhythm section where the old whoop section used to be. That's the corner you're talking about, right?
It's the straightaway in front, like that goes under the bridge.
Yep.
And then you make the right hander.
Yep.
So he made the pass on Brandon, the right hander. He made the pass on Nick in the section before the bridge.
Yep.
So that section used to be kind of hard packed.
Yep.
Now it's really deep, soft sand.
Yep.
So it turns into like this choppy, really crazy, and like he was jumping through it.
Yeah,
and it
I saw
was
that.
stupid fast. Nick actually told me, he's like, I'm glad Joel passed me there because I knew he'd be aggressive. And he's like, and I had a good race going, so I didn't want that to go out the window.
Right.
And Brandon was close. He's like, so I'm glad Joel passed me there, but it also showed me the fast line to that section. He's like, I switched my line to that section or to that line the next lap in that section. And he said that was one of the things that saved the race for him, where Brandon wasn't able to get around him.
Got it. So I'm glad that you were able to touch on that pass there, because obviously notable from what you're telling us, but you could tell when you were listening to you on the broadcast or the live PA going on, were already talking up the pass right away in the moment. You knew how significant it was. So I'm glad that we got a chance to touch on that. And it's funny. I mean, to listen to Joel or to hear what Joel's reaction was, like what, like it just shows what level he is at. It shows what level he's at. Like he's just at another level than some of these guys.
Yeah, he was more pissed off that he didn't win than anything. I mean, others like I don't know that he even remembers it. Like, but it's just like you said, that's the level that he's at. It's insane.
Yeah. So Chad Wienen is absolutely setting sail at this point. Nick Janusa ran second after a stellar hole shot. Cody Ford was impressing in a major way in third early in this race. Brandon Hogue was fourth, and Zach Decker was fifth, and we're seeing more and more of Zach Decker around the top five. Casey, he was fifth early in these stages of Moto 2, and yeah, like good to see Zach Decker up there. I've said to you before, we said it last week, him popping off the page, finishing sixth. He was up front in this Moto again, and that's awesome to see. I felt like, and I think he was on your fantasy team too, I just had a feeling that he was going to be good on this racetrack.
Yeah, so did I. And, I put Zach on my team once before, and he sank my team that weekend. And so I've been mad at him ever since, and he knows about it. So this weekend I ended up putting him on my team. I figured he'd be good there. And I never told him, though. Okay. I just kept it. I was like, I'm not going to tell him. Like, I actually talked to a couple guys, and they're like, don't even tell me. Like, it puts pressure on me. I'm like, oh my gosh. So if that's what's putting pressure on you, that's your own fault. But so right. I didn't even tell him or anything. And then he had some issues the first moto is the end of what happened there. But one thing we got to touch on is Nick Janusa's start.
Oh, yeah.
Where did that guy come from? Like, so he's more than capable of it, obviously. So Nick, you got to keep those starts up and put him in a good spot there. And then Cody Ford, the same thing. I mean, the thing that I seen, he made a really big mistake in the off camber and ended up losing the only 3 positions he lost, or 4 positions he lost in the whole race.
Yep.
He lost them all at one time.
Yeah.
But the thing that I seen is when he was in that running third, his speed was good. And so for Cody, I think the learning that he got from that, he needs to know, like, hey, I actually can run that speed. Mm-hmm. And that should be such a huge confidence booster for him. Yep. And, it comes down to getting good starts to realize and to learn what those guys are doing. And so I think that's a good lesson for both Cody and Nick Janusa this weekend. Mm-hmm. They both, had stellar weekend. And a lot of it came from getting such good starts. And that's where I think that these guys really got to learn from it. And, obviously there's only so many good start positions, but you got to take what you learned this weekend and run with it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get into all of these riders as we finish up our overall stuff. Let's finish the second moto here. At the midway point of that second moto, Chad Wienen was plus 11 seconds over Janusa. Hetrick had made his way up to third at that point, and Brandon Hogue was in tow. Hetrick would make the pass on Janusa. We already talked about that. And then Brandon Hogue would give Janusa all he could handle, but he never gave up that spot, Casey. And we even saw in the last corner, I don't know if you wouldn't call it a brake check or whatever, but it was a slight hesitation to make sure that Brandon wasn't going to get up the inside of that rhythm section there on Nick. And just an awesome ride. We touched on how important that start was, but awesome ride for Nick Janusa in that second moto to hold off Brandon. And we saw like how the pace that Hogue had. I mean, he was fast all day. He was pushing Janusa all day, but we knew exactly what Nick could do with a start. And he showed us that. You kind of touched on it as well, but we saw exactly what we expected we would see. And he rode his tail off in that second moto. So credit to him.
Yeah. And Nick was really bummed on him, like bummed all day. Like his qualifying times weren't good. He just said he wasn't jiving with the track. Like it wasn't supposed to be that day for him. And that's what I told him after the race. I was like, you never know. Like you got to keep putting that stuff past you and just keep moving forward and keep coming around. And, first qualifier, he did well. I think he ended up third or something in that one. Yep. But we all know this mud. He was ninth in the time qualifier. And then in the first moto, he was fifth. And I'm like, look, you gained 4 positions. I'm like, imagine if you do that again in the second moto. And it wasn't quite 4 positions, but he gained another 2 positions. And so, like, some of my theory there, just talking with him, but, like, it actually kind of panned out that way, which is pretty funny.
Right.
But, it overall turned into a good day for Nick.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So Brandon Hogue didn't need to make the pass for the overall podium there, but he sure was trying.
He wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So hell of a ride for Nick Janusa to hold Brandon off there. And ultimately, Joel Hetrick would cut into Chad Wienen's lead, but it wasn't going to be enough. Chad Wienen had himself a perfect day with a decisive 1-1 moto finishes, first overall, led all 26 laps, led wire to wire in this one. Joel Hetrick would go 2-2 on the day after that, impressive ride in the second moto to get up to second. Brandon Hogue earned his third podium in the last 4 races with 3-4 moto scores for third overall. And let's break down the podium then, Casey. Big time win for Chad Wienen. He's now won 3 of the last 4, like I said. But as much as Joel hates losing, he's still got a major points lead. And I'm sure when he lays his head down to sleep at night, he's probably just fine knowing that he's got that big points gap in his back pocket. We know how competitive he is. We know how much he wants to win, but to have a 28-point lead with 4 motos left, I mean, he'd obviously take that every time if you would have gave him that opportunity. If you would have said, hey, you could have a 28-point gap, but you're going to have lost 3 of the last 4 overalls, he would have still taken that 28-point gap, I would assume.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the best positions Joel's been in for, his entire career when it comes to the pro class.
Yes.
I mean, it's insane for him. And, I think this one stung. I think some of the other ones, there was a lot of other things that came into effect. Iron Man is obviously the one that stands out the most to me with the rain and all that stuff. So I don't think that one hurt. I think that one was like almost a sigh of relief. And then, switching motos there at Illinois and not losing any points. I mean, that's huge for him and then for the championship. But I think this one stings. If there's one that's going to sting, if second's your bad day, this one's going to be it, because I think, being a home race and, I know he had a big crowd of people there and he was excited for this race. But overall, I think when he goes to sleep, like you said, like he's good with it. He knows that he was arguably the fastest guy. He ran his fastest lap and the fastest lap of the weekend on lap 12 of Moto 2.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
And Chad ran his fastest lap of the weekend on lap 11 of Moto 2. So it just kind of speaks volumes for the conditioning of these guys and the intensity of the races.
Well, it speaks a lot to yes how fast those guys are, and also knowing that Chad's turned his fastest lap right before Joel did in that second moto, kind of shows you that Chad was aware of how fast Joel was going late in that moto too. He's like, okay, I need to put in some fast laps here and not let him get all the way to my bumper before the end of this thing, right? Like that's what kind of stood out to me by looking at those lap times.
Yeah, I mean, looking at when Joel got into second, he was almost 11 seconds, and at the end of the race, he was 4.8 seconds down. I mean, it's amazing, and I think he needs to hold his hat high on that side of it. And then obviously, Chad knew he had had a decent gap there, and tried to manage it the best he could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Chad wasn't going to kill himself to keep it at a 10 point or a 10-second gap, but obviously he wanted to keep it comfortable. So awesome to see. Great racing on the day from those guys. Impressive rides for both of them. Chad was spot on. Joel had to take it to another level to do what he did in the second moto there, which was impressive. So great ride for those guys. I don't want to get ahead of myself or jinx anything, Casey, but Brandon Hogue is looking the most like, a podium staple of anyone since Thomas Brown has left. I mean, we haven't seen anybody else put together 3 of 4 podium finishes like we've seen from him. What are your thoughts on that? Because, and I've said this on past shows, but to also think, that he broke while leading Daytona, that he suffered that mechanical at Ohio, right? I mean, there's a couple instances where he's, he would be that much better, even if it wasn't for those things. He's been impressive. He's been so impressive this year. Awesome job on the, on the weekend for him. But 3 of the last 4, he's been on the podium. And Brandon Hogue, man, he's grabbed another gear, and some of those other guys are now having to play catch up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we know that battle for third is tight right now, and it's heated up. And Rastrelli's right there too. And the thing with Rastrelli is he's been at Josh Opperman's house training on really hard packed dirt. And Uppy's a legend of this sport. I mean, he's put in his time over the years, and we got to see him at Briarcliff. But Jeffrey came in on a brand new bike this weekend with a head full of steam. I mean, he was ready to go, and I felt like, and I thought Jeffrey was going to be right there with Brandon and Bryce the entire time, like in a really heated battle. And he ended up having a mechanical the first moto. And then second moto, just kind of a mid-pack start there. And just, to me, it looked like he never got going there. And Brandon was on fire. And then there was the same thing with Bryce. And that's where I think we're going to see, we've seen Jeffrey ride well at Redbud before. We've seen Bryce ride well at Redbud before. And the same thing with Brandon Hogue. So, and even Max Lindquist, I mean, yeah, he's not technically in the points for third position overall right now. It really comes down to the small gap between Brandon, Bryce, and Jeffrey Rastrelli. Those 3 are the tightest going into these last 4 motos. And I think the guy you see on the podium over these last 2 rounds is going to be the guy that you end up with third position in the points overall.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that points battle a little bit before we get out of here. But yes, I mean, that's going to be the battle to watch in ATV motocross. It really is. That's going to be the battle that everybody's watching. Everybody wants that third spot, so that's going to be fun to watch. But again, like we've been asking for somebody to step up. I mean, it's been 2 years, it's been a season and a half plus, season and 3/4 that we've been asking somebody to step up, and Brandon Hogue clearly has stepped up and kind of, I mean, he's at least put himself in the best position, put it that way.
He's doing all the right things.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely. 4th overall was Nick Janusa. We talked about him, Casey. We knew what he could do with a start. He got that start in that second moto and rode that to 3rd in the moto, 4th overall. We touched on him. You just touched on Max Lindquist. Rounding out the top 5 overall was Max Lindquist, which is impressive because he suffered a crash in that second moto, but a strong 4th in Moto 1 really helped his average, and his 4.8 moto scores earned him 5th overall on the day, and a crazy day of racing at Pleasure Valley in Pennsylvania. But Max was good. Like you said, I mean, he's a little bit out of touch now with that battle for 3rd, but I mean, I don't know. I came away, that 4th in the first moto was really impressive. And then to be able to, overcome that crash in the second moto and still put it in 5th overall, that's pretty impressive for a youngster like Max Lindquist. I mean, he's just so resilient.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't get to see it see him actually crash. I guess it was in that back off camber where there's like the 3 different lines that go across the hill.
Yep.
And so I didn't even know. And then it was like, they come back around. I'm looking for Max. I'm counting position. I'm like, whoa, where'd he go? So yeah, that's unfortunate for him in that one because, today would have been or not today, but Saturday would have been a huge points day for him. If he could have said, maybe went 4-4 or 4-5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that 8th is going to sting a little bit there. But, I keep saying it over and over again. Like these guys, they're just maturing. They're just learning their racecraft. It's the same, Bryce is the same way. Max is the same way. I think both of these guys, they're maturing. Yeah, like was it a stellar day for either one of them? I mean, Max, pretty solid day there, but Bryce's day was less than stellar. Some of it was out of his control, but he's learning things. And the same thing with Max. These kids are going to be dangerous in the future.
Dude, just sitting back and thinking about what this series could look like a few years from now. I'm sure we got Joel for years to come. We know we got Chad for a year or two, probably. But to think about, Brandon Hogue and Bryce Ford and Max Lindquist and Zach Decker and who knows how long we got Jeffrey. And, we could have 4 or 5 way battles for leads, for wins, for definitely for podiums. I mean, we already got that, but it's just going to continue to get more and more and more competitive. I mean, Nick Janusa's not going anywhere. Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a blast to sit back and watch. Speaking of impressive, Cody Ford, 6th overall, 7-7 for 6. I love to see it. Such a good kid. Love seeing him up front while running in the top 3 in that second moto. We kind of touched on that. He looked comfortable. He looked like he belonged when he was running there before he had that mistake in the off camber. Killer job for Cody Ford, 6th overall at Pleasure Valley, Casey.
Yeah, and that's something I've said about like him, Logan Stanfield. When they get those starts and they run up there, even Tarini got a really good start at the last race and was running up there. And he looked like they can push that pace when they start with those guys. Right. And so I just try to beat it in their heads. Like, you guys are more than capable of running the pace of the front guys or whatever it is. So, yeah, but you can't take nothing away from it. Cody rode awesome. It was one big mistake, but it was one big mistake away from possibly, staying in third for a few more laps. I mean, he had some pretty heavy heat right there.
Yep.
But the result, 7th is a really good day. It's an awesome day for Cody. It was a good points day for him.
Yep.
But the learning experience again of, to me, I still consider Cody a young pro. I believe this is his 3rd or 4th year in the pro class, but I still consider him such a young pro. If you look at the guys around him, Jeffrey Rochelle, Nick Janusa, Joel Hetrick, Chad Whedon, those guys are all very seasoned pros at this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to see, and he's just been getting better and better and better and better. And every year, we obviously saw that podium for him as a rookie, but he's going to getting better every year. Don't let that, let that fool you. So Cody Ford, love seeing him up there like that. Love seeing him continue to take steps forward. Zach Decker continues to build, 7th overall, 10-6 scores. Was top 3 in qualifying in that first session, ran in the top 5 for a while in Moto 2. And the same thing that I said last week and earlier in this episode, seeing that 6th in a Moto really pops off the page for a rookie like Zach. Zach Decker just keeps getting stronger, Casey. Just it's awesome to see. We touched on a little bit already. He's been on our fantasy teams. I thought he was going to be good on the weekend. He really was. You said he dealt with some stuff in that first Moto. Second Moto, we saw kind of maybe what we predicted by putting him on our team. 6th for a kid like Zach Decker is super, super impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's where he expects to be. And, wants to be is up there. And I think his speed, the first moto would have been there. I talked to him and he said his throttle was sticking. Oh. So the one thing I do have to say, like I'm not like a sissy, but if my throttle's sticking, I'm out.
Yeah, me too.
I don't care. It's not worth it. And so for him, he raced that whole first moto with his throttle sticking.
No way.
And everyone thought he was a little out of control and didn't know what was going on. Well, that's what was going on. So anyone that thought Zach was a little out of line or a little out of shape the first moto, yeah, there's no doubt he was a little bit because of what was going on. So my hat's off to him for sticking it out. I even told Jason, I said, I don't know why he didn't just pull off. There was nothing that he was in a gang from riding with a throttle sticking like that. He said he would have to stall it to get it to kind of like reset itself or something, and maybe there was too much play. I don't know what the actual verdict was of what had happened, but yeah, crazy to ride a whole moto like that.
Oh my God, dude. I don't want to drive up and down the parking lot with a throttle that's sticking, let alone ride it on a motocross track. Like you said, that's where I draw the line. I'm out if that's going on. So credit to him. That adds that much more to his day. So that was impressive. 7th overall for him. Jeffrey Australia ended up 8th overall. So a strong ride up to 5th in the second moto. He had to overcome some, not the greatest start. And then obviously that DNF we saw in Moto 1. At the time, I didn't know what happened. You already kind of touched on that, Casey. Was a mechanical failure in that first moto, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. He come up the step up, made the right-hander, come down the hill, and then like I lost him. I thought everything, like I didn't know, and I'm like, whoa, where's Jeffrey? And he kind of blended in, and there was a guy, like one of the tow vehicles was down there kind of with him, but hadn't touched him, and he's looking at the bike and pulled the seat off. And when I talked to him back in the pits, they were swapping an engine, and he said when he got back, or when he was down there, like he'd hit the start button and nothing would happen. It was like dead. So they changed the battery and then it would turn over, but there was no compression. So some crazy fluke of a thing must have happened, because that machine was fresh this weekend. And so it's just, who knows what it actually was. I don't think we'll ever know. That's part of the game. With what we do, we keep all that stuff under our hats. But to rebound, to 5th, the second moto, I think that was good. And, the work that I know that he put in, I mean, I never went and tested with him, but we were shipping stuff and, talking constantly. And, he's been there with Opperman and doing that stuff. Like, I know he came in like this wasn't what he expected for the weekend.
Right. Of course. And I think that he benefited from a little bit from, Brandon Hogue was a little bit back in points. Because Bryce was the guy. Bryce has a tough day, so he kind of benefited from the fact that like there was a topsy-turvy kind of stuff going on, that he's still within, shouting distance, obviously, that top 3 spot. We'll get into that in a minute. So, strong rebound, if nothing else, for Jeffrey Australia there in that second moto.
Definitely.
Quiet day for Logan Stanfield. That's not always a bad thing. He ended up solid as always, but he ended up 8-9 for 9th overall, Casey.
Yeah, and Logan was struggling, I guess, with some back issues. He was a little tight and starts, I think. I mean, I remember watching one of the videos, like his start wasn't very good either moto, and just kind of got pinched out. And, it was a rough day for Logan, even though it was a quiet day. But I already got like a text from him. He's like, I'm coming back at Redbud. I'm going to be up there where I belong. Like, he's already fired up for the next one. So, you kind of just don't want to skip over Logan in that sense, but I think and I expect more from Logan, and I know that's coming.
Well, and not a bad, 9th isn't a bad finish, obviously. But if he is dealing with some kind of back issue, I know exactly what that is like. So yeah, that's impressive. And now going to Redbud is kind of like a quasi home race for him. I know Crawfordsville is probably what he considers his home race, but Redbud is probably just about as close. So he's going to want to come out and impress at Redbud for sure. Disappointing day for Bryce Ford. We got into that a little bit already. 10th overall, he ends up thanks to that little get off in the first moto, plus the TNF caused by mechanical failure in Moto 2. Obviously a day that Bryce would like to forget. We got into him enough. Vince Merman, he ends up 11th overall, but strong moto scores, 9-10 in the motos, and that was good for him. And that 9th in the first moto was a new personal best for Vince. So congrats to him, Casey. Any thoughts on Vince Merman?
Yeah, I think it really come down to completing laps and not having the big oopsie or, a mechanical or something like that. I always speak very highly of Vince. I love the kid. Like, he's on that cusp of really getting closer to, Logan, Cody, and, Zach and all those guys, and really racing with those guys week in and week out. And I think we're going to see that from Vince very soon. And I know he's already planning for next year, and I think that's going to be really good for him. And he's gonna move in the right direction for sure.
Good. I'm glad to hear that he is planning and thinking about next year already, because he is getting better. He is building, and we talked about it with Cesar Jimenez last year, where he was kind of he turned into the fantasy staple, and that's been Vince here late in this year. He's the fantasy staple in that tier 4. I mean, this last weekend wasn't, you couldn't really use that as a gauge because he was the only guy in that tier, but he's the guy, like he's the most picked rider in that tier. So that's awesome to see. Awesome for Vince, a guy I obviously have been monitoring and watching build. So that's awesome. And Patrick Turini, kind of tying everything up here, seemed to nearly get the whole shot in the first moto. And then I saw him basically what seemed like rolling around for the rest of the day. So what happened to our Italian friend, Casey? What do you know about that?
From what I gathered from him and Sergio, he had to get off. I mean, because he was running up there the first moto. I mean, he was one of the guys. He was charging hard.
Yeah.
And he had to get off somewhere. I didn't get to see it, but from what I gathered, he pointed kind of at his leg and, messed up his leg a little bit. But he come back out the second moto and, wasn't himself by any means. But I think, I don't know. I don't know if it was the mud, if it was not 100% sure what was going on there. I didn't get to brief with them after both motos were over. I had to get out of there pretty quick Saturday night after the races were over. So I look forward to talking to those guys before the next round or at the next round and seeing what was going on with him.
Got it. So he's a guy, Patrick Turini is a guy that has been absolutely killing it, so hopefully he can kind of get back to what we saw at the last race, because he killed it at Briarcliff. I mean, it was awesome to see. So hopefully you can get back to that.
We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. We used to speak of a CST takeover, but now 2022 is the year of CST supremacy. CST's Pulse MXR tires are the choice of Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, meaning CST tire riders are in contention for Pro Class wins and a possible podium sweep every time they hit the racetrack. CST tires are also the official tire choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, but you already knew that. I, your host Cody Jansen, helped pioneer the CST takeover with Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears on my way to back-to-back national championships and a Pro Sport podium to cap off the 2021 season. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offer the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Did I mention they offer contingency payouts as well? Visit shop.CST Tires to join the CST takeover today or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many more believe and trust in CST Tires. Do you? You already know we're Team Blue Crew now more than ever here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. And whether it's 8-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV motocross history, or 7-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, who is now tied for second all-time in titles won, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This continued and unprecedented success for the Yamaha YFZ 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undisputable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in an ever-growing Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Best yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and stronger than ever here in 2022, meaning Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payouts and prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them at Yamaha Outdoors on social media, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and, oh yeah, 6-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship-winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. Since 2001, Namura has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Namura's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Namura's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, industry-leading top-end repair kits, and recently added connecting rods, visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV Components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need, for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world, visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com.
Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
So let's tie up our pro class coverage by playing kind of the percentage pie game, Casey. Don't want to put you on the spot. That's why we're going to structure it in this way, starting with Joel Hetrick. So he's now got a 28-point lead. His chance of winning the title goes up and up every week. That continues, to go by with him maintaining this big lead, obviously. But let's go percentage chance that Chad Wienen wins Redbud. And I think I'm going to go like 80 or 85%. And the reason why I say that is because he really needs it. It's a favorite track of his. He's desperate. He's got to have it. So I think I'm going to put my percentage, let's say at 80% that Chad Wienen wins Redbud. Don't know. I mean, this is why I'm not putting you on the spot here, but hoping maybe you can give us a percentage on what you would say, at least in response to my 80% chance that Chad Wienen wins Redbud. What do you think?
There's no difference in this.
Okay. So I'm still putting you on the spot. So maybe you should just react. Maybe you should just react to my reaction. Because I've been trying really hard, Casey. I said to you before we hit record, been trying really hard to not put you on the spot, to have to pick against your guys this year. I've been trying really hard at that, but I just figured maybe the percentage pie game, maybe I just need to play this game by myself. I don't know.
No, to me, like in all honesty,
even if you don't give me a percentage, basically
what I think it's going to be. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think I guess what I'm trying to touch on is that we're going to see a desperate Chad Wienen needing to get the win at Redbud. That's where I was trying to go with this conversation. I think, and if Joel's going to put up a fight, and not just take second because that. If he can do that with his points gap, I mean, obviously, if he's not going to do that, then we're going to see a barn burner of a race.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Chad's going to be fierce at Redbud. He always is. We've seen Joel win and beat Chad at Redbud in the past. Mm-hmm. My clear-cut prediction for Redbud is going to be that they swap moto scores. Okay. I think they both win a moto. And I think that should be the goal. Obviously the goal for Chad right now is just win every single moto he can. Mm-hmm. And I think for Joel, it's just don't lose any points. Would it be beside me if Chad went out and won both motos? No, I could totally see that going on. And it wouldn't be any different if Joel went and won both motos. I could see both of them going 1-1 on the day, but I honestly think just because I've been doing this for a couple of days, I think they're going to split motos at Redbud. I think that's kind of been the history there lately. maybe Chad ends up with the overall, maybe Joel ends up with the overall, whatever it is. But I think it's going to be a moto split type of day.
So it'd be a lot like Sunset Ridge, and on a
Sunset Ridge,
on a very similar track to Sunset Ridge, and we've seen this before. What's stuck in my mind is how good Chad was at Redbud last year, but also, you know, I've been watching these races from last year as we kind of prep for these races this year. That's kind of how I preview these things and preview for the shows and stuff. And Joel is just a different rider this year. I mean, we touched on all the stuff that he was dealing with behind the scenes and selling his house and moving the family and all the things he was dealing with last year. Don't know how much that had to do with it, at least had something to do with it. But Joel he just seems like he's at another level this year. I truly believe that this is the best we've ever seen Joel. We talked about that this is the best position he's ever been in going into, you know, late in the year here in his professional career. So it is somewhat hard to use that as a gauge. I just remember how good Chad was last year, but I hope that you're right. I hope that we see some battles. I hope that we see some great racing at Redbud. Obviously it's a track that always prompts some great racing. So that'll be fun to watch. So, okay. So continuing with this percentage game, I'm hoping this gets a little easier for you, Casey. I'm hoping I'm not putting you on the spot as much as that first one. So Brandon Hogue now sits all alone, third in points. Bryce Ford is 7 points back. Jeffrey Rastrelli is 10 points out of third. Nick Janusa is 18 points out of third. And Max Lindquist is obviously the biggest long shot at 38 points out of third. So I won't ask you to name the favorite. Again, I won't do that because Brandon Hogue is the favorite, obviously, with his, you know, spot currently in points. He has the spot. He's got a little gap. We can't argue against that. He's got all the momentum as well. So that's obviously something too. I think I would put the percentage chance that he gets third, when the dust settles, probably at like 60 or 65% solely because he's got that little gap. But I don't know. I still think that I would put the probability that he gets it done at maybe just 60 or 65%. And I know that that's a good percentage, but I guess the doubt in the back of my head is, you know, the DNFs are a question. We've seen it with him. I mean, we've obviously seen it with Bryce this past weekend, but we've seen it a little bit more with Brandon. That lingers just in the back of my head. I don't want that to happen. Obviously, obviously we don't want that to happen to any of these guys. Right. But yeah. Man, I don't know. I'd put the probability at 60% for Brandon Hogue. And then obviously the next favorite would be Bryce. He's just 7 back. So if he gets all he's got to do is beat Brandon in some of these motos and he's going to, take some chunks out of that gap here pretty quickly. Or if Jeffrey, another guy that's, knows the sand, does good at Loretta's. I mean, he's only 10 back, but I do think that Brandon's put himself in the driver's seat for this thing. And like I said before, this is going to be the battle to watch down the stretch in ATV motocross. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, most definitely. And all three of them have been hot and cold almost this year. And, this is the first mechanical Bryce has had. I think we were talking about it the other day, in 5 years or something like that. I mean, his program has been so solid. So it's very uncharacteristic for him to have a mechanical. So I don't see that happening again.
No.
And I don't wish it on any of these guys. No. It's going to be a tight battle. I think, one of them sneaks in there and gets a second in one of these last 4 motos. That's going to be a huge points jump because right now, they're only playing with like 2 points. Say Bryce was third and Brandon was fourth. That's only 2 points. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and it's there's 4 motos. So that's 8 points. So, that could happen, but Bryce is going to have to really step in there and battle his way and be there all the time. I mean, it comes down to who can get the starts, I believe, out of those two. I think their speed is very similar. And I think once they're in that position, their consistency is very similar. We've seen, Briarcliff, Bryce came from behind Brandon and made the pass on him. Obviously this weekend, Brandon made the pass on Bryce when, in that corner in the second lap of the first moto. So there's a lot to be said, but I think it's one of those situations that we just need to sit back and watch it come.
Well, I think so too. I think it's going to be, I love when we preview battles like this because it's telling everybody, hey, watch these guys, watch what happens between these guys at the races. And, between these guys, between Hogue, between, Bryce Ford, between Jeffrey Rastrelli, between Nick Janusa and Max Lindquist is in there too, to see who's going to be the guy to take the spot at Redbud and looking forward. And I think that, at least dark horse for podiums late in this season is going to be Max Lindquist. I think that, he was, got that impressive podium at Briarcliff. He was good this past weekend. He was fourth in that first moto. So he was, put himself, at least going into the second moto, in possible podium position. And, we know he's good at tracks like Redbud, and we know he's good late in the year. That's going to be a guy to watch. Yeah,
he definitely caught fire late last year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we could see happen out of Max. I mean, it's just little mistakes, but, it almost puts hair on your chest. Like, don't get down on yourself. Like, all of these guys, like, you make a mistake or you have an issue or something like that, like, it's only making you mature. Like, it's not over. It's not the end all of the world. Mm-hmm. Like, I know, I guarantee you right now, and I know from the three that really have a chance at third, I heard it from Jeffrey's mouth after the first moto. My chance at third overall is gone. Just pissed. And I'm like, you're packing it in? Like, that was, like, no, don't pack it in. And then, Brandon Hogue, I'm sure when he lost that motor or whatever happened, I think it was a motor that he lost at Briarcliff, like, he had to have been thinking, like, my chance at third is over. And Bryce, the same thing, like, he loses, has a mechanical, like, my chance, like, no, there's still a chance there. I mean, just quick math, if Bryce finishes third the next four motos, he wins that position by 1 point. That's 8 points. Yeah. He's 7 behind. If Jeffrey throws in a loop in there, or Brandon just continues to kind of do what he's been doing, and he's just third, fourth, and in the next four motos, there he is. Like, to think of all the adversity that those three technically have went through this entire season, for them to still be within 10 points of each other going into the last four motos is awesome. And it kind of goes back to, like, with Max, like, with him catching fire late in the year, like last season, if we're going off of what we've seen last season, he could very well be a huge wrench in this program.
Yep.
We're kind of singling it down to those three, but at the same time, Max fourth, first moto, Janusa third, the second moto. There's other guys that are going to insert themselves into this battle to where, if so much can go on. So I think my advice for those guys is take the lessons that you've learned and apply them in these last four motos. And where the cards fall, I think every one of you should hang your head high.
No doubt in my mind. And what a battle, but what an awesome group of riders. Like, what an awesome group of riders, impressive dudes that are just duking it out right now. And then the exciting part is somebody's going to step up and claim this thing as their own. And it's going to be a blast to see which guy is going to do it. And like you said, there's going to be some sleepers and some dark horses that get in the middle of there and mix it up as well. So that's going to be awesome to watch. One more percentage question for you, Casey, then before we finish up. Percent chance that we see Michael Allred return to racing at Redbud. What do you know about that?
0. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, from what I've gathered, I mean, and I could be wrong. I mean, I'm good friends with him and, his team owner.
Yep.
But if my opinion means anything, he does not race this year.
Got it. Okay.
I just don't see, he's not back to where he can do a lot of crazy activity. I mean, he's perfectly fine. Like, you talk to him, he's all good, but, like, the doctors don't want him going crazy yet. I mean, there is a chance, I think, that he doesn't. I mean, there was talks that he might come, to Pleasure Valley, but I think for him, it was being top 10 in points. That's pretty much out of the question now. And so, and if he can't come back and be 6th, 7th and make a run at being top 10 in points, I don't think there's a reason for him to come back. It's not that we doubt that he can, but I think if he's not being able to train and ride and do the things he does, I think you save the money and you stay home and you prepare for next year. And I think every one of us will respect the shit out of that.
Oh, I think so too, 100%. I'm so glad that we touched on this, because my argument would be let people, I mean, coming back now would mean, I mean, nope, it means nothing to me at least. And let everybody remember how damn good Michael Allred, if you're Michael Allred, let people know or remember how damn good you were this season instead of coming back and just racing to race. That doesn't make any sense to me, especially if your health is in the mix on this. He, was awesome this season, and let everybody remember that, right? Like that's where my mind goes. Take your health and heal up and come back next year as strong as you can be.
And I'm so serious, like, about head injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like, it's not even a question. I talk to Chris about it almost daily, and I'm like, Chris, it doesn't matter. Chris came to the race this weekend, and so he got his fix of the races, and he helps Max some, and I think I'm super passionate about that stuff. You can fix bones and you can fix that kind of stuff, but you can't fix your head. You only get one. So you stay home, you heal, and you come back. And I think we see Michael Allred next year.
Got it. Yep. I hope that you're right. So let's wrap up our pro class coverage on that note, but let's roll with the percentages for one more second, because our next guest made it 100% certain that the WMX National Championship would be hers for the taking. All right, guys, I'm absolutely jacked to sit down with this next guest, brought to you by our friends at SSI Decals, the best graphics maker and designer around. No project is too big or too small for SSI Decals. Check out SSI's all-new, fully interactive website at ssidecals.com today. I trust SSI Decals, and so does this next guest. It's an honor to introduce the reigning, defending, undisputed 2022 WMX ATV Motocross National Champion, rookie Kinsey Osborn. Kinsey, it feels like just yesterday we were chatting with you following your very first WMX race where you finished on the box at Daytona. Now here we are, and you are the champion. Take me through what it's like and the emotions that come along with it. WMX champ, how does it feel?
It doesn't feel real. Like, I don't think it's set in yet. I feel like it was just one race that I won, not the whole championship.
Right. That's so crazy. I mean, just to think about like if you would have told yourself last year at this time, right, if that you were the new WMX champion a year from now, like just to think about what that would have, like, how would you have even reacted to that at the time?
I wouldn't believe it. Especially if you told me that, I'd be like, Cody, you're lying.
It's wild.
Not true.
It's absolutely wild. But to think about, then when you sit here and think about all the great races that you had leading up to where we are now, all the great races you put together since Daytona, the 3-race win streak that you're now on after this past weekend at Pleasure Valley. You put together a lot of great rides, Kinsey, a great season, a strong season, a season where it felt like you were, like your dad said last episode, like you were in control. Man, it just all came together, and that rookie season is going to be one to remember, a rookie season that I don't know that we've ever seen in WMX history, at least not in the last decade plus. So, what a season for you. So tell me about it a little bit.
Well, I want to go over what happened second moto at WMX. I don't know if many people know about it.
Okay, well, I was gonna say things got a little interesting. Things got a little interesting at the conclusion of that second moto. So tell us all about that. Oh
my gosh! So I see the white flag, and I kind of thought it was weird because I usually count my laps, and I was like, that seems kind of early. But then the next lap around, it's still there, and I didn't notice. It was my fault. I should have looked. Like race total checkers,
Right, yeah.
But I was like, nope, I just won this. Like, I'm gonna pull off the track and go to the podium. And I look over because the Greenwalds are parked right there by the exit of the track.
Okay.
And Matt Greenwald's sitting in this chair, and he's like, go, like pointing at me to go. And I look back, and Andrea's coming, and I see the white flag still out. I'm like, oh crap. And she was right on my butt the whole time. And I knew on that off camera she was gonna take the high line and I could take the low line. And she was right there with me, like side by side, and I just barely beat her to the corner.
Oh my!
That really gave me a scare.
Hey,
but shout out to Matt because he really helped me with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I've ever been in that scenario before. Maybe once a long time ago, but I know like what that frantic nature is like. Hey, like I gotta go, So there's no feeling like that. But Kinsey, I feel like that just adds to the story, right, of clinching the championship, right? Like if it would have happened without incident, that would have been too easy. So this just adds to the legend of you clinching it, for your rookie season. I feel like that just adds to the story.
Yeah, it definitely makes it more memorable, for sure.
Right. Okay. So tell me about like how your mental game changed throughout the season, because obviously your expectations changed, early on. Like a lot has changed since the beginning of the season. At the beginning, like I'm sure you were kind of just trying to figure out where you were going to kind of stack up, where you stood. And now here, quickly you kind of turned into the one to beat. And then down the stretch, this championship kind of came into sight for you. So how did your mental game and your expectations change throughout the year? And what was it like to flex from going, basically from like, hey, let's see how I stack up against these girls to these girls are coming for me? Like, what was that change like?
Well, of course, in the beginning, it was kind of like, well, I don't have any pressure on me because
that changed quick.
There's no expectations. And then I started winning and I'm like, okay, I can actually do this. Like, this isn't like just a dream. It's real now.
Right.
So I don't think there was a particular race where it happened. I think when I lost that Ironman, when I got second, that's when I kind of was getting like, okay, like I don't want to come in second anymore. Like I didn't like that.
Right.
But I was really happy for Andrea. But just, I don't know, just winning when I won more and more, it just felt like I needed to keep winning.
Gotcha. I feel like we talk about this with the guys classes, like with the pro class or maybe even pro am. And I remember going through some of this as I was a younger kid, racing against guys that I had looked up to. And that's a hurdle. Like that's a hurdle because you put these people on a pedestal. And we talked with you when you were first on the show about, you looked up to Andrea, you looked up to Neve. And I don't know if you would say that you put them on a pedestal, but either way, you looked up to them. Like they were kind of the benchmark, and that's a hurdle to race against them. So like, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that any, but like to mentally go from, I look up to these girls to, hey, these are my competitors to, hey, like, now they're coming for me. Like I need to beat them. That's a big change. And to go through all of that in one season is just so much like that. That's what comes to mind when I think about all the changes that we experienced, since March or April until now. Like it hasn't been that much time. It just feels like so much growth for you.
Yeah. On the podium at PVR, Andrea told me congratulations on the championship. And I told her congratulations, like good job. And it was just weird. It didn't feel right. It felt like a part of me still feels like Andrea should have won because she's just so good. She's such a great ambassador for the girls and like the youth program and everything. Like she's just the best role model. And it just felt weird that I wanted, not her.
Well, I think that like, that's one of the things that stood out to me, from the weekend and throughout the season as well. But like, she's been so gracious in defeat that didn't change this weekend. You can tell she wants to win. Like you can tell, obviously, like she's not happy with losing. But, for you to dethrone her, you dethrone this, 3-time defending champion, and she couldn't have been any more complimentary of you. And she even said like she felt like this was her best season. Like she was riding as good as she ever rode, and you come out here like that should be another feather in your cap, I feel like. But I guess what I'm getting at is the last time you were on, like we talked about, you looked up to her and Neve, and she continues even in defeat to be somebody that you can you and other younger riders, guys, girls, doesn't matter, like should look up to her. And I guess she's showing what a true champion looks like. Like she's continuing to act like a champion, a great ambassador for the sport, even in defeat. And I feel like just you having this connection with Andrea, racing with her, you looked up to her. Now you're, competing with her, like to see how she went about her business. I feel like that is almost a great thing to kind of put in your repertoire, like to have learned a little bit from her, because inevitably, Kinsey, you're now the champion. You're the now, big person on campus, basically the people that these young girls are going to look up to, young kids are going to look up to. Now you're going to be the one that they look at as an ambassador for the sport. And I feel like what you sat back and kind of saw Andrea do, like that's something that you're going to be able to mimic going forward as well, which is a great thing for all of youth girls racing and girls racing in general.
Yeah. After I won on Saturday, my dad told me on Sunday that I should go down to the gate for the girls and schoolgirl classes.
Yeah.
Like Andrea does. And I'm just a little too shy for that, like a little too awkward. But he wants me to be like her, like role model, like talking to the girls, going down the gate with them. I don't know. I
Well,
was a little
because
I
you
was a little
don't
too shy.
you don't realize how big of a deal that is for them, you know, like
Yeah.
again, like remember when you were a younger rider, like looking up at, you know, some of those ladies you were watching, like, you know, hey, that's Kinsey Osborn, you know, like that's how they look at you. So
Yeah.
I feel like, and you have come out of your shell, I feel like so much, right? Like I feel like, you know, like I said, the growth has been, you know, off the racetrack as well, but I don't feel like you have to, you don't have to, you know, hide behind the shyness thing, because they just want to see you. They just want to be around you. So I feel like that should be something that you do want to do going forward. But I know that that's a hurdle too. I remember my dad being like, hey, go down to the gate, you know, when I was a pro, and I'm like, man, like, I don't know that I want to do that. But,
like, I don't know what to say. Like, good luck.
Right. Well, honestly, that's sometimes all it is. Give them a high five, give them
Yeah.
a pat on the back, tell them, you know, you're watching them, tell them you're going to cheer them on. Like that's such a huge thing to kids, right? Like that's you saying something like that might be something that a young racer remembers forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just awesome to hear. Awesome. Like I said, awesome to see and hear about all the growth, and the emotions from the weekend is amazing. So coming into Pleasure Valley, we all knew that you just needed this one more overall. We talked about, you know, how things got a little sketchy there at the end, got a little tight.
Yeah.
Did you feel any extra pressure or nerves like going into the weekend? I mean, what was that like, knowing, you know, you just had to get one more win to clinch this thing? Was there more nerves? Was there more pressure? Did you feel that?
You know, before the weekend, like pulling into the track, no, I was just excited. I was more like hungry, excited to like do it. But then like sitting and staging is the worst part for me. But then once I'm on the gate, I'm like all ready to go. So sitting and staging is the most nervous. And then on the gate, I just give me a whole like rundown in my head, like just have fun. It's all right. Just do your thing. And that's what I did.
Like I'm ready for this kind of thing. And it's funny. It's so funny. Like the anticipation builds throughout the weekend. It builds as you're going goes down to staging. And then as soon as the gate drops, everything slows down and it's all good. But I feel like as much as like, you know, we get nervous, we get that, you know, anxiousness, that nervous anticipation, like that is actually like, even though we hate it in the moment, that's what we live for. Like that's the literally the natural high that we all seek. Right. But in the moment, it's just more and more anticipation building. And it feels like, you know, there's times where it's like, and I don't know if you feel this, but there's times where I've been like, man, why do I sign up for this? Like, why do I like this? But it's actually what we like the very most.
Yeah. Especially when the pros go before us, they stop us. They're like, nope, you guys are going to wait 20 more minutes.
1 hour later, you're going to be sitting there.
Just waiting for it, thinking about it.
Right. That's funny how that works. So I remember asking you about your goals the last time we spoke, the last time that we had you on the show, and things have changed a good bit since then. So tell me a little bit more about your goals. I know we're still in season here and all this just happened, but what do your goals and motivations look like as we look towards the future? We saw you, you know, slay it against the guys at Briarcliff in the B class, that, you know, really holding your own there, which was awesome to see. Could that be a part of your plan in the future and racing like those classes full time? Like what is, you know, what do your motivations look like possibly going forward?
Well, speaking for this season, B class at Redbud.
Oh, nice. I like it.
Yeah. Loretta's, I'm not so sure. That's not my best. I don't do the best there.
Okay.
So, but next year, B class for points, like legit running it all year, and WMX, and probably that's it for now. I think it would be 450B, not Open B.
Okay.
And WMX.
Okay.
Just keep it simple.
Well, I love to hear that. And I think, you know, racing with I mean, you would know this from Briarcliff, but racing with the guys, I'm assuming, and Andrew has done it for years, but racing with the guys helps. I would feel like that helps kind of even expose you to another, you know, kind of pace, like another, you know, another faster group of riders. And that's only going to help you in WMX. It's going to help to just continue to push the women's side of the sport, I would think.
Yeah, when I raced it at my track, it was so fun. Like, I just wanted to keep doing it for the rest of the year, but my dad was like, it's not worth it now. Like, you're not in it for points, but it was really fun. And it did push me to go faster than I usually do, just because I want to beat them. I want to make them embarrassed. Like, but it is a lot different. Like, especially on the starting gate, I was like all the way out wide, like all the way on the outside, and I still got a pretty good start, but those guys are just wild. Like they just go straight in there, crisscrossing each other. They don't care. Like you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Well, thankfully, as we kind of think about what next year might be, your hole shots are so good. Hopefully you don't got to be in that crazy mix, but man, if you get in like the middle of that B class or whatever, there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah. I'm actually really surprised about my hole shots this year, because I've always been the one who got the worst starts. I was like second to last on the start, and I had to work my way up to win.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something just clicked with the 450, I guess.
I was going to say that hasn't been the case this year at all. I feel like your hole shots have been spot on.
Yeah.
So like I said, that's going to be awesome to watch going forward. It's going to be fun to watch at Redbud. So will you race all 3 classes at Redbud like you did at Briarcliff? Because we know you have that women's 15 plus championship still needs to be clinched, right? So you'll race 3 classes there. Is that the plan?
Yeah, the women's 15 plus, I think I would lock it up if I win Redbud.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
I thought so. And how cool has it been? I know you and Ellie Roush are tight. I'm assuming like that has to be awesome. I mean, isn't she second in points, right? And she got a win or 2 earlier in the year. So that's got to be pretty cool for like, I feel like you guys are like best friends, right? So to be able to race with her, and I feel like she just keeps getting better too. So I feel like for her, to see like her best friend, like doing so well, I feel like that should probably push her too. And also, it's not like she's racing some like bitter rival. So it's probably like a good, healthy friendship that's just boosting both of you guys, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm telling her all the time. I'm like, are you hitting this? Are you taking this line? Are you taking that line? And I'm like, no, you got to be taking this line.
Yeah.
And on the gate for women's 15 plus, it was Saturday. Yeah. There was the B class right before us on the track. So we're on the gate watching the B class, and her friend Braden crashes, and he ends up breaking his wrist and messing up his knee on the triple.
Oh wow, okay.
So she was all like on the gate looking over there on the finish line, like all worried about him. And I'm like, hey, you got a moto right now. You can't be focusing on him. And I was like, you're gonna pull this whole shot on me right now, and we're gonna race.
Yeah.
And she almost did. I swooped in there right at the last minute, but I could have let her have it.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, to think about, as a competitor, you're like, hey, we got a race right now. Not, not you're not worried about just yourself. You're worried about her too, which is awesome. And like I said, to be racing for a title like you guys are. And I talked to her dad earlier in the season. They all seem like awesome people. And he kind of filled me in that she's kind of new to this ATV motocross thing yet. So to think about that, she's new to it and doing as well as she is, she's another person that hopefully you're racing for years and years into the future. She's a great asset to this whole women's class thing as well. Yeah,
I think she started when she was like 14, I think. So she's only been doing it a few years.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how good she's gonna get.
That's amazing. And like we talked with your dad, we've been trying to talk about the women's racing all year long, and the girls racing all year long, and you guys have made it easy on us because the racing has been awesome. But with Natalie Jackson and some of these other kids coming up, these younger girls coming up, I mean, man, looking forward, like this class is going to be stacked for a long time.
Yeah, it's only going to get more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they're all coming for you now, Kinsey. So you got that crown, and now you get the high of the natural high of kind of trying to keep it, right? Like there is some pride that comes with that now. Like now this is mine, and somebody's got to come take it from me. So Andrea's been in that role. Girls have been in this role for years and years and years, and now you're the one sitting on that throne, and you gotta do what you gotta do to keep it. And I think anybody coming up, anybody currently in the class, everybody, they're going to have a tough time trying to rip that thing away from you. That's how it looks from my perspective, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. I mean, WMX is different than like me racing in the girls class a few years ago, but yeah, it's going to be the same old feeling.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear. So, we know you are quiet a little bit. You are a little reserved, as many champions are, but and I told you before we hit record on this, I thought you were awesome. I remember telling your dad you were awesome the last time you were on the show. You're obviously awesome now. I feel like you're just coming that much more out of your shell. We love having you. We love, that we're going to have these conversations long into the future. So looking kind of past, we know we gotta click off that 15 plus championship, women's 15 plus championship yet, but looking past that, how are you going to celebrate this monumental championship? Do you have your sights set on anything specific? Like, well, you got to do something special to celebrate this thing, Kinsey. So what do you got in mind?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, after race season, basketball is going to be starting, and I love basketball almost just as much as I love racing. So
okay,
I don't know if we'll do anything. I
mean, you got to do something. You got to do something to make it special. But yeah, you got to do something to make it memorable, Kinsey. You got to reward yourself a little bit, even if it's just for one day.
Yeah, I have to ask my dad about it.
Okay. Well, So the basketball thing, and I actually remember years ago, I mean, this might've been, I guess not years ago, but a couple years ago, maybe 2020, I remember asking you about your other sports, basketball and stuff like that. So tell me about that. Like, how's basketball season looking? Like, what position do you play? I'm a big sports guy, so I love hearing about this. So, or do you have goals of maybe playing basketball at a next level? Like, tell me about that.
I'm not so sure about out of high school yet, but the position, our team's kind of a mess right now. I'm not even going to lie. Okay. We're just having players going all over the place and switching, trying to find what works. Because last year I played the post because I was the tallest on the team, only being like 5'8".
Okay.
And now we have a taller girl that's playing this year. So I'll probably be like a guard, shooting guard.
Okay. Well, I love to hear that. Yeah. What are you a junior? Are you going to be a junior? Is that what you're
going to be a junior? Yep.
Awesome.
I'm not excited about it.
Oh, why do you say that?
It's just everyone says it's the hardest year, like
please.
Work-wise and everything. It'll be okay.
No, I feel like the earlier years are tougher because you're trying, like, high school is a big thing when you're a young kid, right? But yeah, no, after you find your footing, you're just fine. But yeah, awesome to hear about the basketball thing. Crazy to think about, you're going to be a junior in high school and you're the fastest woman on four wheels, Kinsey. You're at the peak of the sport, at the most prestigious series in the world. You're the fastest women's ATV rider that there is. Man, I just can't stop saying it. I feel like when I read off that at the beginning of the year, the reigning defending champion, I couldn't even hide the smile on my face, man. It's just awesome. It's been so much fun to follow this season that you've had, and awesome to talk about it. You absolutely slayed it. And like I said, looking forward, I can't wait for more conversations like this. Yeah,
this has been the most fun season by far I've had.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and that's what it's all about, right? Like that, as long as you're having fun, and you can probably vouch for me when I say this, but we've told so many people, I feel like this is something I've told young racers my whole life. The more fun you have, the more successful you're going to be, the more invested you're going to be, whether it's at the track or, in the gym or, just thinking about racing when you lay your head down at night, all of those things, the more invested you are, the more fun you have, the better it's going to go. So I feel like that's that's a huge part of it too.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where I would be right now if I didn't start racing. Like, this is crazy thinking about how far I've come.
You know what? And I've talked with so many racers that it helps them just shape who they are, right? Like you identify, and not that racing is everything about you, but it's a giant part of your life. And you identify, as Kinsey Osborn, the ATV motocross racer. So I feel like just that self-awareness and everything else that comes with it, that sense of identity that comes with the sports that we love and that we thrive in, like, that's such a big part of this. And your whole life, you're going to think of yourself as, Kinsey Osborn, the ATV motocross racer. Even as life changes, as things change, you're going to think of yourself as that. And that's just such a huge thing. I feel like, for me, even as a young racer, like when I was 13 or 14, 15, whatever. And I knew I wanted to be a pro ATV motocross racer someday. And that, helped me, be fit and work out in the gym and do well with my schoolwork and stay out of trouble and, stay drug and alcohol free and all of those things. Like my identity, my motivation, my reasoning for staying on the straight and narrow was ATV motocross from day one. And I just feel like, that's just such a valuable thing, to preach to kids, now, and even parents, like, man, give your kids the opportunity. It doesn't matter if they're first or last. Like if they love what they're doing here, they love ATV motocross. And if they're putting their best foot forward and trying their hardest and all of those things, like that's really all that matters, because the trickle down effect of, you know, them as a person and just life in general, not just results on the racetrack, like so much can be taken from ATV motocross and ATV racing and all of that. Like, I feel like just the effects are exponential. Like it's just gigantic. You can't even quantify all the impact that it has on a person. I truly believe that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that was long-winded on my part. I apologize for that.
You're fine.
Kinsey, you know, this is, like I said, this has been a blast following you this season, to watch you put together a historic rookie year, one we'll talk about for forever. At High Point, you know, which was pretty early on in the season, actually. Rodney talked about how you were going to go down with one, you know, as the greats. You were going to go on to be one of the greats in this thing, and man, he sure looks right. So congratulations again. Thanks so much for joining us to talk about it, and we can't wait to see what you have in store for up as your follow-up act next year. Can't wait to see, you know, what you got in store for Redbud and beyond. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Cody.
Great job, Kinsey. Thanks again. That's newly crowned WMX champion Kinsey Osborn right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by SSI Decals and SSIDecals.com. Thanks, Kinsey. Congrats.
As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer. Products ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Success in the ATV MX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymauer Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymauer, at Haymauer Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Office is located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
All right, back here with Casey Greig talking Pleasure Valley Raceway on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. And Casey, wow, Kinsey Osborn grabs her 3rd win in a row in PA to wrap up the 2022 WMX National Championship as a rookie with 2 races to spare, mind you. I don't even know what else to say about this young lady at this point, but man, was she impressive. She's been impressive all season long, gets the job done with couple races to spare. Man, I don't know. Again, I don't even know what else to say about Kinsey Osborn. I am beyond impressed, Casey.
It's funny because I have my notes here of, mentions that I want to make for the amateur side of racing and stuff. And the first one, it just says WMX Champ.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I think that's all that needs to be said. I think everyone kind of knows that, where she's at and what she did. And I mean, my hat's off to her and, her dad, obviously he's a big supporter. He's a big supporter of the sport and, obviously Kinsey. And I think, I don't know Kinsey whatsoever. She almost blew it. And I don't know if she made mention when you interviewed her, but she almost blew it. She pulled off on the white flag, which they did give her 2 white flags. And I was sitting right after the finish line watching that race. And I didn't realize that they threw the white flag again, but Styles West did. He was sitting with me and he's like, oh no. He starts yelling and I'm like, what? And he's like, white flag. And I look up and I seen the white flag and she pulled off. And so I started yelling and both of us were yelling at her, go, go, go. And I told Andrea later, I'm like, Andrea, I'm like, dude, she almost messed that one up. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm the one that told her. She's like, why would you do that? Like, not in a negative way, but like, oh, you could have helped me out there. And I'm like, Andrea, if you would have pulled off on the white flag, I would have told you to go. If she would have, if Neve would have, if any of like that's just the person I am. Like, that's not the way you want to win it, right? And she's like, no, absolutely not. Like, she was just giving me grief. But congratulations to Kinsey. I think it's awesome, the fresh blood in that class right now. And I think it's just going to fire Andrea up even more for next season. And we're going to see her come out, swinging. And obviously Kinsey's not going to back down whatsoever. And, I'm hoping that we get, you got Maddie Trower in there. I think she has a potential. Ellie Roush, she has the potential. I think those 2 could really charge in there and step up. And I think, I believe next year, maybe we're gonna have to wait one more year before we get Natalie Jackson into the WMX class. Cause I think when she gets in there, she's gonna mix it up pretty heavy too.
Yeah, that's what Jeremy was telling us when he joined the last episode. But yeah, I think that the 2 white flags just adds to the story, right? Adds to the memory there. But Kinsey Osborn gets it done, and she wasn't just taking on scrubs. I mean, she, like you said, the class was great. It continues to get stronger. She had to dethrone the 3-time defending champion Andrea Berger, as well as the 2018 champ Neve Shaw, and she got it done, leaving no doubt that she's the fastest woman on 4 wheels, fastest woman in ATV racing, which is awesome. And the other battle that we're all focused on, similar to that 3rd place battle in the Pro Points, is the battle for the Pro-Am title. All of our title contenders finished on the podium this weekend, with Joe Chambers grabbing the win over Aaron Salinas and Dane Molander. But all of that, all that did, Casey, is tighten up the points battle. I mean, Dane Molander maintains a slim 2-point advantage over Aaron Salinas and a 10-point gap over Joe Chambers. And it really, it's really hard to figure out who has the momentum here, because my mind goes to last week's guest, Aaron Salinas. He just seems to be hot right now, but he only has one win. Joe Chambers has now won 2 of the last 3, but the trio has all been on the podium at each of the last 3 races. So I know that was a lot of info there, a lot to take in, but give me your thoughts. If you had to at least peg a favorite here, or at least someone who has the momentum right now, who's the first one that comes to mind for you?
Man, I gotta give some credit where credit's due. Chambers, I don't want to say he destroyed his hand on Friday, but his hand was massively swollen.
Okay.
That kid is freaking tough. And to squeak out a win like that, I mean, he didn't squeak it out. I mean, he won. I mean, I watched it with the Rated MX live feed. Aaron was pretty close, but man, I got to give it up for him, and I don't do any work for him. I kind of met him this year, talked to him a little bit in passing here and there. Him and Blair Miller are good friends, and so I talked to him there. But I think, with the points gap with two races to go, I mean, momentum, I mean, there really isn't any momentum with those 3 right now. I think they're all very equal. I think Aaron's starting to kind of come into himself later in this year. You can see his results have gotten better as the years went on. Dane, the same thing. I mean, Dane, he had the fastest amateur lap time of the weekend. He's clear-cut, typically the fastest guy. It's just a matter of starts and different things like that. So I think it's still a very toss-up. I think you're almost starting from scratch at this point in the season. And I think the guy that's dominant in these last 2 rounds is going to walk away as the champion.
Yeah. Yep. I think so too. It's going to be awesome to watch. And like you said, it's hard to pick a favorite. It's hard to pick, the guy that's got the most momentum, because like I said, the last 3 races, this trio has been in some combination on the podium. So, I mean, they all feel like, they got some momentum and some wind in their sails. So it's going to be fun to watch that down the stretch. And, that's going to be a fun battle to watch, obviously, but maybe the reason why Aaron Salinas seems so hot to me right now is because he's got back-to-back wins, back-to-back overalls in pro sport. This weekend, it was him getting the win with Brett Musick in 2nd and Joe Chambers in 3rd. But with 4 wins and 7 podiums now so far this season, this is still Brett Musick's title to lose, Casey. He's been on fire. I mean, obviously we're seeing some other winners at this point, but Brett's the title guy in this class, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I was looking at the points, and I think it's going to be pretty far cry for Aaron to be able to catch him.
Yeah.
30 points. So there'd have to be some catastrophic. And I think they actually have some drops in this class. So we're not seeing that, which is going to help tighten it up a little bit, because Aaron's got a couple bad finishes, but so does, Crawfordsville rings a bell for me with Brett. He's at the 8th. Aaron's got an 8th and a 6th and a 7th. So this class has been all over the place. I mean, look, you got the guy that's leading the points in Pro-Am, 5th in points in this one. Then we got Launderville in there that's got a win in this one, and JJ is always tough. And then Chambers has only got 1 win in this one. So this has really been something that's been dominated more or less by Brett, in all honesty, and with Aaron Salinas now really, like I said, coming into a stride. And that's kind of where I was referring to. So championship-wise, I think it's pretty safe for Brett right now. With 30 points, that's a tough feat to accomplish in 2 races with drops.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just been fun to watch. It's awesome to see. I've been saying it all year. It's been awesome to see Brett up in there and kind of shades of, 2000, whatever it would have been, 14, 15, 16, something like that, where he's winning, pro sport, pro-am races, whatever. So just awesome to see. So that's been another class that's been a blast to watch. So let's get into our honorable mentions here. Casey, I know you said you weren't there on Sunday, but some stuff that stood out to me looking at the results. So Evan Osborne had a week weekend to remember, grabbing 2 overalls in the C classes. Michael Lahote went 1-1 in Open B. Tom Ebden went 1-1 in Production B. Congrats to him. Noah Arnall won 2 of the 250 classes, while Joey Norris won the other. So those are some of the names that stood out to me while looking at the results sheet. And I have one more, but I'm going to keep him in my back pocket and save it because we got him coming up as our final guest on the show tonight. But to finish up, Casey, who do you have for us? Who stood out to you on the weekend in our amateur divisions?
I want to give our South African friend a shout out here. Opperman.
Damn, I had him in my back pocket. That's all right though. We got JL coming up on the show, Casey. So give him some love.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. To travel over here and be out of his element. He told me before the weekend started that he'd been putting in the work and he felt really good coming in, and that obviously showed with the production A and the college 1624 A class overall wins this weekend. I watched a few of the 250 races. And some of the notables, there's the obvious: Matt Greenwald, Joey Norris, Noah Arnell. Those guys, they're just killing it. I think they're top 3 in all 3 of the 250 classes. But Cody Houghton, TT kid, coming in this year, first year of nationals. He's riding really well. He's not way back in points, but he hasn't done all the rounds. Tyler Lombardo, he got a really good couple motos. They had some bike trouble this weekend. And we're kind of fighting some of that stuff. But to me, what stood out as he rose above and ended up second in one of the first motos. And then Talon Trimble, the same thing. He ran second for quite a while in one of the motos on Saturday and ended up third that moto. And I think this class, anytime you can insert yourself into the top 3 in any one of these classes, it's notable to who you are and what you are as a rider. And I think all 3 of those guys I just mentioned should really pat themselves on the back because this class has been dominated by Matt, Joey, and Noah all year. So I think when you insert yourself in there and you're battling, that's just showing you that you're growing. And, Jeremiah Newton the same way, like he's right there. He's the closest to those guys in points in some of these classes. And it's just by being consistent and growing every weekend. So hats off to you, gentlemen. Very proud. And, I just think it just shows the talent of what our sport is holding right now in the 250 classes.
Yeah, those classes get deeper and deeper every year, it seems, and the level just keeps getting better and better. They're obviously flying, putting close to lap times that are nearly as fast as some of the fastest amateur lap times. So it's awesome to see. Casey, 3 weekends off heading into Redbud. What the hell are you going to do with yourself?
Oh man, hopefully go fishing, but probably most likely work. I'm at home right now. I'm sitting at the desk doing this, and I got piles of things I got to do, and just prepping for Quad Cross of Nations and getting stuff built for that, and just it doesn't stop. But hopefully get a few boat days, go out and hang out on the water, and just kind of relax a little bit and get a refresher for these last 2 rounds, and be ready to rock and roll coming in and finishing out this season strong.
Yeah, well, I hope that you do get those batteries recharged a little bit, do get some enjoyable days to yourself, at least over the next near month here that we have. And then it's going to make us appreciate Redbud that much more when it finally does come. But if you don't have anything else for us, Casey, I want to congratulate you again on the honor of wrenching for Bryce Ford at the Quad Cross of Nations. Can't thank you enough for all you do for us, obviously, here at Digging Deep and for me personally. And man, we had a lot to talk about this last weekend. This was a long one for us, but just a lot of stuff to break down. So I appreciate you being here to help me break it down more than words can explain, pal.
Not a problem, Cody. Last question for you, Redbud.
Oh, dude, yeah, for sure.
So you're good. The YFZ's ready. Dude, we're gonna go.
Dude, YFZ is good. We're actually got a podcast and an article coming up on it in the next couple weeks. But put some laps on it, which was good. It needs to get dynoed. It hasn't been dynoed yet. So I got it like pretty close. It's got a little weird spot on the bottom, the way bottom yet, but super impressed, dude. I mean, I said this in an Instagram post, but the long gears, the way that the thing just keeps pulling, and obviously the rear end, kind of touching on our Elka and impact stuff, the rear rear end, that linkage on there, dude, is as advertised. I mean, I feel like, same whoop sections, that same tracks that I was riding with my TRX where I could blitz them really hard. It feels like my rear end is in slow motion, just following every single little bump now on the Yamaha. So like I said, better than advertised. The machine is better in every way than what I'm used to on my old Hondas. And man, I'm stoked. I'm hoping I can get to the point where I feel like, comfortable racing. I'd like to race pro sport and probably 25 plus, like Brett's doing. I'm hoping I can get to the point where I'm comfortable doing that and feel like I have enough laps in me to do that and not make a fool out of myself. But man, it's funny because I got this thing where like, I feel like if I can't envision something, like it's not going to happen. If I can't picture it, it's not going to happen. And this process was just so slow with getting, we talk every weekend before we hit record on these things, how hard it is to get parts and, the delay that people don't understand and whatever. And like, I've started building these things and started acquiring parts last October. And it took until 2 weeks ago for the thing to be rideable. So it came together, but honestly, everything happens the way that it was probably meant to be. So where I was going with that is, originally, like I'm telling you, this is how it went before Crawfordsville, because Crawfordsville was the first race I wanted to race, and like literally the week before Crawfordsville, I'm literally loading the trailer, like doing everything so that when my last parts showed up, I could roll the thing in the trailer. And if worst case scenario, I'm going to have to finish building it, at the races. And thankfully, maybe that didn't happen because I had way too much work to do to actually think that was reasonable, but I was trying to tell myself that I could do it. So I couldn't, that ended up not being able to happen. I really tried to push it for Sunset Ridge. That's my closest race to home. That didn't happen. I didn't have all the parts that I needed in time. I got my Walsh parts right before Crawfordsville, tried to get them all done. The powder coater, there ended up being a hiccup there, blah, blah, blah. So that didn't happen. So anyways, I was starting to really question Casey. Like I couldn't even picture Redbud, as everything happened. And finally I got the thing together. We had a little hiccups. We had to figure some things out, got everything running really well. The thing freaking rips. So yeah, the 3-week gap here in between races comes at a perfect time for me to get as many laps as possible. And then, yes, so long-winded way of saying yes to Redbud, yes to Loretta's as well. We're going to hit it hard, as much as we can here at late in the year, but man, just so stoked that I finally got a quad together to ride, because especially talking about these races every weekend gets me so hyped up, and then to not be able to ride myself had been really tough. So yes, Redbud's my favorite race of the year. I would have loaned somebody's quad if I had to, but glad that this beauty came together. And like I said, we got some podcast and an article coming up on the build. I feel like we didn't cut a single corner with building this thing. The thing is absolutely amazing, and I wanted to be able to kind of help people, because there was some stuff like where I was having to just figure things out on the fly. I mean, there's not a manual to building these things, and
exactly,
not a manual to, there's some just different quirks and little, things that you got to kind of, thankfully I had guys like you and guys like Paul Turner and DJ Sperling, from the Australia Racing, Rocket Crew, Max Lindquist helped, obviously Chad, Whedon Motorsports. Like I had so many people in my back pocket. If I wouldn't have had them though, dude, I would have been completely in the dark. And I still felt at times like, man, I'm just figuring this out on the fly and Googling and asking questions and probably sounding dumb to some of you guys. You helped too. Like you helped lead me to some parts for, like my where I was going to mount my Vortex, where I was going to mount my shock bottle, stuff like that. Some little things that I needed to figure out. So I'm hoping that with this article for Digging Deep and the podcast that we're putting together, I can help at least kind of have people have a guide to how I built mine, and hopefully a resource to people in the future that go through the process that I went through. So I knew it was going to be a giant ordeal to rebuild my program, switch everything over. I mean, think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars I had in Hondas and Honda parts, slowly just making this transition. And finally we got it done. And hopefully, this journey that I've been on, hopefully with the article and the podcast, we can help people going forward. But overall, can't wait for Redbud. Such an upgrade for my program, and can't wait to show this thing off a couple weeks from now when we finally do get to Redbud. But man, counting down the seconds. I need to get some more laps in between now and then, but counting down the seconds between now and then. I love Redbud, so can't wait.
Yeah, wow.
sorry, Casey. Just so many thoughts, and I know that I even saw some people's comments. I mean, obviously the bike went over great on social media, but I saw people's comments like finally we're seeing this thing. He's been talking about it for however long, and
forever.
Trust me. I wanted to post the thing as soon as possible. It's just like it was one thing after another, small hiccups and whatever. But like I said, can't wait to show the thing off. Can't wait to race the thing, and like I said, can't wait to roll out this article in this podcast, kind of recapping the whole build and the parts I used and all the help I got and the knowledge that everybody shared with me. And like I said, hopefully I can make it easier for the people that come after me wanting to do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, we're all excited. I had a couple people ask me this weekend, and I figured Cody would be here. I'm like, hey, he's only got to ride the thing once. Give the guy a break.
Yeah, literally once. Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, this 3-week break is gonna be perfect timing for you. And making sure this thing is gonna, you have the adequate time on it that you need to, and we all look forward to seeing you out there and cheering you on. And I'm sure again, I mean, this weekend, people that I've never met come up to me, hey, it's so awesome hearing you on the show. So, I appreciate you having me, and we're doing this thing every week and making it happen. It's awesome.
Yeah, can't wait for Redbud. Can't wait to cover these things at the races. I love that so much more. Looking forward to these last two, looking forward to Redbud. But Casey, like I said, sorry I got long-winded there at the end, but I really do appreciate everything that you do for me, everything that you do for the show, everything you bring to this thing, man. It's invaluable. So I can't thank you enough. And I'm only 2 points down in fantasy, Casey, so I'm coming for you. I can't, hopefully I don't jinx any of these guys down the stretch. Hopefully that me picking them isn't the curse. You and I picking them isn't the curse down the stretch. But looking forward to it. And man, just thanks so much for being here. I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks, Cody. I appreciate you.
That's a wrap on our Pleasure Valley Raceway coverage with Casey Greek, brought to you by Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DiggingDeep20 at blenderseyewear.com. Thanks, Casey.
Insurance. It's not something everyone likes to talk about, but let's face it, if you race motocross, it's something you should have. Integrative Financial Concepts is an independent financial service and insurance firm who offers moto-friendly insurance and helps out riders like Nick Janusa, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Joel Hetrick gain confidence on the track. With their unique Safe to Race and Safe to Ride programs, if you qualify, they have the ability to offer life insurance with living benefits to those who ride. With these living benefits, you may have the ability to access a portion of your life insurance policy while you're still living, for things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or chronic illness. They can also help with many other things, such as home, auto, motorhome, and trailer insurance, as well as college planning, special needs planning, payroll processing, as well as group health benefits for your business. So whether something happens on or off the track, Integrative Financial Concepts has you covered. With their complimentary one-on-one appointments, what are you waiting for? Reach out to Mike Daniele at DANIELE_Michael at nlgroupmail.com today and see how Integrated Financial Concepts can help you. Living benefit riders are supplemental benefits that can be added to a life insurance policy and are not suitable unless you have the need for life insurance. Riders are optional and may require additional premium and may not be available in all states or on all products. This is not a solicitation for any specific insurance policy.
Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by their 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late-model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. We recite on every Digging Deep episode that we are all about aligning with others who share our passion and love for ATVs, and that's exactly what Blendzall is. For more than 60 years, Blendzall Racing Oil has been the secret choice of many championship-winning riders and engine builders. From World Championship kart racing in Europe to California Speedway racing or the mud and rocks of East Coast cross-country racing, thousands of hardcore racers know that nothing out-lubricates or outperforms Blendzall. Even with Blendzall's wide reach into all forms of racing, Blendzall's lead man David Schloss admits that ATV riders are his people. In fact, he's been an ATV enthusiast since 1986 when he first threw a leg over a Suzuki Quad Sport 230. Fun fact, his passion for ATV racing even led him to launch a popular ATV racing magazine in the mid-2000s called ATV Insider. So Blendzall is a small family-owned business that blends and bottles all of its products in Ohio and has ATV roots. Sign us up. That's why Blendzall is the oil choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. To learn more about Blendzall's rich heritage or to shop Blendzall's full line of 2T and 4T racing lubricants, visit Blendzall.com and follow them at Blendzall on Instagram. Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant. The best power sports coolant on the market, Evans prevents overheating and boilover so you need not worry about harming your engine or suffering a premature end to your ride no matter what the conditions. Designed for use in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, and other power sports equipment, when conditions are at their worst, Evans is at its best. Upgrade to Evans now to avoid overheating and boilover next time you hit the track or trail. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 at checkout to save at evanscoolant.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show.
All right, guys, our final guest is a rider that I'm absolutely stoked to talk to. He absolutely slayed it at Pleasure Valley. He's one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet, and I'm stoked to hear more about his unique story. Brought to you by the Haymauer Financial Group. Scott Haymauer and his team of financial advisors is ready to help you reach your goals with a personalized goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. That's Haymauer Financial Group, 920-338-8150. I'm proud to introduce Production A and College 16 to 24 overall winner from Pleasure Valley. Say hello to our South African friend, Mr. J.L. Opperman. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the show. So stoked to have you here.
Hey, Cody. Thank you very much for having me to be a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Hey, so let's get this straight. Let me get this straight. You had never won a national overall here in the States until this weekend. Is that true? You'd never won one until this weekend, and then you got two all at the same time.
That's 100% correct, dude. I've never won until this weekend. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And we'll get more into the weekend, but tell me a little bit more about your story. You're South African. What is the South African ATV scene like? And tell me a little bit more about your path leading you to racing here in the States.
And it's always been a dream of mine since I was younger to come race in the US. Always watched YouTube videos, rip it up films. So I didn't even know the Fords coming here. I just knew Chad, Joel, Jeffrey, Nick Janusa. That's what we mostly saw on the YouTube videos.
Okay.
And from a young age, it's always been a passion of mine. And I told my parents, like, one day I'm going to go race there. And I stayed true to my words, man, and they've made it possible for me to come over here. So funny thing is, I actually started racing enduros and not motocross back in 2015.
Okay.
And I switched over to motocross in 2016. 17, 18, 19, and 2020 was my first year coming to the States.
Yep.
And yeah, so I moved over. I made the switch in 2017 just to motocross, and I don't regret it one bit.
Well, that's awesome to hear, pal. So what is the ATV scene like there? Because, like when you came over here to the US, like what was the competition like? Was it what you expected? Was it stiffer than you expected coming from South Africa? I mean, like, tell me about what it's like in South Africa racing, and then, obviously how that compared to coming over here.
So in South Africa, the quads race on the same day as the dirt bikes. And there's only 3 classes, pro, intermediate, and rookie classes, which I obviously did pro. And I really thought when coming here, I would have a chance at pro until I saw the guys for the first time. And I was like, there's no way. These guys are next level fast.
Okay.
So that's where I basically decided on A class and college just to find my feet in the racing year and try to better myself.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah, and also the racing back home is not as big. I think on a good weekend in the pro class, we would be like 8 to 10 riders.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, it's awesome to hear that you were able to kind of speak, bring your dreams to reality or whatever, coming here into the States and racing ATVs on the biggest stage. So the other thing, and you kind of touched on this already, but I thought that this was true, that you initially didn't have a connection to the Fords when you came over here. So how did that all come about? It must have happened pretty naturally, I would think.
So I was staying with other people first, and things didn't really work out. And Cody actually invited me over to come stay with them. And from there on, I've been with them all the way. It's really nice to work with people like them, pushing me and motivating me to do better.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine being with a better group, right? I mean, you're obviously with, pro level, the fastest guys that there are basically at the very top level. And you're able to see that every day. The facility that they have is awesome. So for you, feels like you couldn't have found yourself in a better position with a better group of people. I mean, just that part simply enough, like they're some of the best people you'll ever find. So to be with that group, man, has got to be such a blessing.
It is for sure, man. Like, people don't know what goes on behind the scenes and what they just do for the sport. And for me as well, like, my practice bike blew up earlier this year. We got the motor fixed and it blew up again. So I've been out of a practice bike basically for the whole season. And they were so nice to lend me a stocker just to ride, to keep me going throughout the whole season. And I just got my practice bike ready before Pleasure Valley. So that's also a bit like riding my own bike again, getting used to the Honda feeling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I bet.
It's a bit different if you practice on a Yamaha and race a Honda.
We've had that conversation with guys like Brandon Hogue on this show, right? Like, when you're not practicing on what you're racing, it's very hard to kind of keep that continuity. Jumping back from brand to brand is such a tough thing to do.
It is for sure, but I have to say I enjoyed the Yamaha a lot, man. It was awesome.
Okay. I love to hear that. But so you first came to the States in 2020, and then you weren't here in 2021. Obviously, now you're back here now. So what happened in 2021? What happened there?
So basically, what happened is my country had travel banned, so I couldn't get back into my country, and I stayed longer than my visa was. How can I put it? Yeah, longer than my visa was valid for.
Yep.
Yes. So they revoked my visa, and we just went back to the embassy. We gave them all the facts. They looked it up and issued me with a new visa.
Okay.
But the main reason is end of 2020, my dad passed, and this is a passion me and him shared. And I felt like last year if the passion went away a bit because he's not there supporting me anymore.
Yeah.
But then middle of the year, I just realized, like, why would you throw this away? Why won't you do it for him? And that's where the flame caught again. And that's why I'm back. Like, I want to win. I want to succeed for him.
I was just going to say, you want to do that for him. I'm sure now you almost have that much more of a driving passion because you know he's right there with you, right? Just because he's not there in person doesn't mean he's not riding with you every single lap.
For sure, that's posts and stuff. You'll see his ring. I never ride without it just because I know he's there with me, watching me. So that really, it motivates me and fuels me more to do better, because I want to make him proud.
Yeah, well, he's obviously so proud of you. I'm so sorry for your loss, but so glad that you're back here in the States doing it for him. Making the most of this opportunity is amazing. And so you're riding one of Cody Ford's old Hondas, right? That in this past weekend, you won not one, but 2 overalls at Pleasure Valley. So what got into you, pal? What made this last weekend, different? And obviously, your dad's got to be prouder than ever with 2 overalls coming on the same weekend like this. Tell me what got into you. What was different about this last weekend?
So I'm going to be honest, like at Sunset, I started changing my mentality because I know the bike I'm on is fully capable of winning. Mm-hmm. And at Sunset, I changed my mentality to starting to push to the end. Like, I'm going to race you till the checkered flag. And they started getting better. At Briarcliff, I didn't get the best of starts, but I started racing the people till the very end. And when I lined up at that gate, I think Bryce was down there and John. Like, John always just tells me to keep calm and race your race. It's nothing different than practicing with the pros here at the house with them. So
yeah.
He just tells me to keep calm, preps my gate good. And I sat there on the gate and I just thought, like, come on, dude, you can do this. Just dig deep. It's all you. And I sat there. As soon as that gate dropped and I let off, I knew I was in first. I'm going to pull the start and I just have to ride smart because it was pretty muddy. Mm-hmm. And I was on small wheels, which was a bit of a disadvantage, I feel like.
Okay.
But I just put my head down and I rode a clean race to take the victory in production. In college, when the gate dropped, I got a second out of the gate. And I tried to make an early pass, which I failed. And then in the off camp, I knew that bottom line was faster because I watched the pro qualifying and just riding. You could see the bottom line was faster, and I took it and successfully made the pass, man, and just rode my own race.
That's amazing to hear. That's amazing to hear. So tell me about your emotions when you finally, like, you get this overall. You've been working towards it for, the better part of 2 seasons now between 2020 and then this one. So what was your emotions like when you finally got that overall win? And then obviously the second one must have been that much sweeter, but to get that overall win and then especially as an amateur, especially as a younger person, like I remember that feeling being younger and, getting that podium opportunity for the first time, and you can see the joy in the pictures, right? But that is such a big deal when you get to do that for some of the first time. So tell me about what that was like. That had to be like the realization of a goal you've had for a long, lifelong goal, basically, at this point.
Man, I don't, words can't describe it. When I came over the finish line, I didn't have like any emotions. I was in shock. And then I saw Bryce up on the hill. He was cheering and showing me a number 1. And then it hit me and I was like, oh my word, that just happened. And I was like shouting from happiness. It was awesome. Yeah. It's a feeling I can't describe.
That's amazing. That makes the hair on my arm stand up. And going forward, we talk about this. I feel like we talk about this every week, but after you get, the taste of that the first time, and maybe this is what happened in that second class, but after you get the taste of that, then it's like, okay, I can do this. And now you start to expect like, hey, like that podium is up there. Somebody's going to be up there after this race. I should be the one up there after this race. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure maybe you felt that for that second race, but that's obviously how you're going to feel going forward. Like, man, this is my podium. That's my podium, not somebody else's.
Man, for sure. That just boosted my confidence so much. When I got on that gate for the second college moto, I was ready. Like I was set on that number one finish. I was set on the overall. I knew I'm gonna do everything what I have to get that overall because I can. And when the gate dropped, I pulled another start. Halfway, I would say to the last lap, I think I led, and Juan, where's he even from? I'm not sure where he's from, but he passed
Argentina, I think, right?
Argentina, yeah, I think so. He passed me, but I knew it's fine as long as I stay in second, I'll have the overall, and I just kept it there. I didn't want to get into a battle or do anything to jeopardize the overall, so I just played it safe. Kept it there.
That's
and man,
amazing.
That was awesome. When I crossed that finish line, it was to know it's two wins. It's awesome,
dude. You had to feel like, what is happening right now? Is this a dream? 2 in one day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's how it felt. That's all. I was like so static, man. It was awesome.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. That's so great to hear. And just, again, you can still hear the excitement in your voice, which is killer. So I would assume the goal, obviously, for this season going forward is to grab a few more overall victories, if possible, I would assume. And then going forward, like, what do you have your sights set on? I mean, do you want to stay in the States for years to come and continue to move up the classes? Do you have your sights set on the pro class? I mean, tell me about the goals that you have for yourself.
So my goals is I really would love to work with the Fords in the future as well. It just works. They are great people. Their program is awesome. They do a lot for the sport. So if they'll allow me, I would love to come back next year as well and try to do Pro-Am and Pro Sport. And hopefully I can move up to Pro. That's ultimately the goal, is to reach Pro and see what I can do there.
Yeah, well, I love to hear that. Obviously, this past weekend was a major step in the right direction, right? It's just building blocks, and you're building up to getting to that ultimate goal of the pro class and racing against the best of the best. Obviously, the guys you're racing against right now in the A class and in 16 to 24, I mean, these are the next fastest guys, the up and coming guys. So that's awesome for you. You're well on your way. So that's awesome to hear. And I can promise you, pal, I mean, like you said, I mean, being with the Ford group, I mean, I can't imagine being with a better group of people. They love having you too. They love you. But I can promise you, wherever you are, you've made a fan out of me and a friend out of me. I cheer for you always, pal. And I think a lot of people are going to cheer for you after this conversation too. It's awesome to hear the passion and the love for the sport in your voice. And while I have you, because I know you train with the Ford Brothers group, we heard that already. And you and I had actually talked at Sunset Ridge about, Bryce and Cody and the Team USA thing and, some of the BS and I guess some of the hate or whatever being slung in the direction of Bryce Ford. And that was an awesome conversation to have to you. I know you and I are on the same, kind of vantage point, the same perspective on that, which, I just simply can't make sense of some of these people's takes and whatever. I can't really understand that. But behind the scenes, how is our boy Bryce handling the pressure that, this Team USA honor, has brought with it? Obviously, it's the biggest honor that I can think of in the sport, but how is he dealing with it behind the scenes?
Oh man, he's so excited. He talks a lot about it. He's just putting in the work. Like, I think he's still focusing on his season, but he's also trying to work towards that, which is really awesome. Like, you know Bryce, how he is. He's just a cool, calm guy, ready for anything. And it's just nice to see that hard work pays off. And I'm trying to follow that as well. That's why I'm saying working with him motivates me, because working hard makes you achieve great things. yeah, man, he's really putting in the work. He's excited, and I'm like really glad for him that he got this opportunity. Like we talked at Sunset, the guy in third overall, he gets the spot. Like, he got chosen for that because he worked for that. You know, if it was another rider in that spot, for sure, I would have been like ecstatic for them as well if they had the opportunity. But he put in the work to get there, and I think a lot of respect to him for that. No, but I just think he's really putting in the work for the nations and for the rest of the season. He wants to finish out strong. He didn't have the best weekend at Pleasure Valley. A little mishap in the first moto. I thought he was going to be mad, but he really kept it calm. He said that was racing. That's what happens. And that's how a true champion handles it, you know. And that second moto, his motor blew, came off the track, and he's like, that stuff happens. It's racing, and that's pretty cool to see how he handles it, even though he lost some points now, but he'll bounce back. I trust.
No doubt in my mind. And, you know, one of the things that we had talked about, you know, at Sunset Ridge when we had spoke, like the arguments, it's like people are trying to present it like somebody else, you know, deserved the spot more than Bryce did. And obviously, like, there's a bunch of great guys. There's a bunch of great guys in that group, but Bryce was third last year. He was third in points last year. He was third in points when they made this decision. He was third in points coming into this past weekend. And now, even after, you know, the hiccup that he had, you know, he had a crash in the first moto, he had a DNF in the second moto because of a mechanical failure, and he's still only 7 points out of third. I mean, just to look at that, it's just kind of like, man, I just don't see what some of these people their argument is. Like, you know, he's representing our country. Like, shouldn't we be building him up? Like, shouldn't we be, you know, adding to the confidence that he has rather than, you know, acting like this is some egregious thing that somebody else deserves the spot. Again, like guys like Brandon Hogue, like they've been doing great, like awesome. And I cheer for Brandon too. But, I feel like even those guys are, you know, they're going to end up cheering for Bryce. They're going to cheer for our country. He's representing our country when this race goes down in September. And I just feel like, what I want Bryce to do, and I think he's going to do this. I think he's been doing this. Just this last weekend wasn't a great representation for the hurdles that he dealt with, but I just want him to use this as fuel. And I've said this on shows before, but don't let, you know, some of that stuff going on take away from the excitement and the honor of such a big opportunity. I mean, this is a opportunity that the family has dreamt of and worked towards for years and years and years. And this is something that Bryce Ford is going to think of 60 years from now. When he's 80, he's going to remember when he represented the United States at the ATV version of the Olympics. Like, man, and you'd be able to tell me this, but I hope that he cherishes every moment. And I have no doubt in my mind that the U.S. is in great hands with Bryce Ford representing us. And we know that he's going to bring his best to the Czech Republic this fall. But man, I'm just glad to hear that he's taking it, you know, as well as he is. And I think, like you said, with what he dealt with this last weekend, you know, he dealt with some hurdles and took it calmly. And that's what we want. Like, that's what you want from somebody on the biggest stage, like the Quad Cross of Nations is. We want to know that, hey, when a curveball gets thrown, because it inevitably will, that he's going to handle it like a true champion, like he handled that incident this past weekend. That's what we want to see.
No, for sure. Like, Cody, I believe all of those pro guys to be on that level, put in a tremendous amount of hard work. And that's why I feel like I have respect for each and every rider, for each and every one. There's no disrespecting anyone in my eyes, because it takes a lot of work to be up there. But you got to give a man credit where credit is due. And I mean, if it was someone else, if it was Hoagie in that position, if it was Jeffrey or Janusa getting that position, man, you can't hate on them. It's awesome. Like, it's a real honor to represent your country and have that opportunity. And, you know, Bryce worked to be in that position and he got it. And we just have to be glad for him. We have to motivate him. In the end, it's like, he's the one represent him. Chad and Joel are the ones representing the United States, and you guys want them to win. We all want them to win, because that's what it's all about. It's not about the rider, it's about the team, you know.
I agree 100%, pal. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Okay, so the other guy I want to touch on here is Cody. Tell me what Cody is like day to day. He's been riding so well of late. 6th overall this past weekend was phenomenal. A rider known as the Foreman is always someone that I love cheering for. So tell me what Cody is like day to day. He's got to be another force that's awesome, a great asset to your program as well.
Oh man, Cody. Yeah, Cody's awesome. He's just, the Foreman. He's putting in the work. He's changed his diet a bit. He's just really like pushing it. At the house, he's become really fast. Like, I struggle. He gives me a head start and still catches me, and I try to keep him behind me for a bit, but he makes moves fast. He's just really been putting in the work as well. And I think it's starting to show with him getting better overall finishes. And I was like stoked for him when he ran in 3rd in the Pro Moto, the second one for a bit. I couldn't believe like he didn't give up. He was pushing it for a while until Joel got that inside on him. But he ran consistently good lap times and he kept it clean. Yeah. Like, that's what's nice to see how he improved from the beginning of the year to now. I would say he's put some building blocks on there for sure.
Oh, for sure. And he, like I said, he's a guy that I love to see doing as well as he is. He's doing everything the right way. I mean, he's just such a great guy. So love to see all his success. And like I said, he's a great asset to your program as well. Like when you got guys like him, pushing you get a head start, and he's coming, you're working feverishly. I mean, there's no better way to practice for the races than having pros chase you down during the week. I mean, you have something that a lot of guys don't have in their back pocket, and that's just something that you're going to continue to use to your advantage going forward. Like that's an awesome thing for your program as well.
For sure, man. I can't thank the Forge enough for giving me the opportunity and just believing in me. I feel like they want me to do good and want me to succeed, and it just really motivates me and pushes me. And with the training as well, like I start 1st, Cody 2nd, Bryce 3rd, and we would space it out to where we finish at the end of the motor. We would be together, if not pass each other, and that's what pushes me towards the end. Like, I don't want Cody to catch me, but he wants to catch me, and Bryce wants to catch Cody. It's like just pushing us to ride harder and faster. It makes it awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, like I said, I can't imagine a better moto simulation, practice simulation, race simulation for you. That's amazing. And that's awesome stuff, pal. Well, I can't thank you enough for your insight, sharing your story a little bit. Congrats on a stellar weekend. You freaking killed it at Pleasure Valley. Thanks so much for jumping on here to talk about it with us. And good luck the rest of the way. We'll see you at Redbud. I can't wait.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor and I appreciate it. And we'll see you at Redbud for sure.
Yeah, can't wait, pal. You're the man. That's Production A and 16-24 winner at Pleasure Valley, JL Opperman, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by the Haymauer Financial Group. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
How cool is JL Opperman, man? He doesn't even know how much I enjoy him. The nicest, most genuine guy at the races. He's amazing. I'm so glad that we were able to get him on the show here. Major thanks to all of tonight's guests, Kinsey Osborn, JL Opperman, and Casey Greek. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to all of our donors. You know who you are. We appreciate you so much. Thanks to all of our partners, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrated Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Blenzall Oil, the official oil choice of Digging Deep, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, Walsh Racecraft, Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DiggingDeep20, all lowercase, at blenderseyewear.com, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including our new Legends Never Die tees, is all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com today, so check that out. This new merch drop is so rad, and we'll have them at both Redbud and Loretta's as well, so come see us. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can give us a call using our voicemail line as well. Give your reaction to the show, the races, and or everything in between, so we can play them on the show and react to what you have to say. That number is 920-569-3519. We want to hear from you, so give us a call. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff as the 2022 season hits its stretch run. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links and discount codes, show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. And speaking of Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy, no one had the perfect lineup this past weekend, but we had 4 event winners at PVR: Dan Rice, Tom Johns, Cody Clayton, and Charles West. They won with a lineup of Chad Weenan, Brandon Hogue, Zach Decker, and Vince Merman. A perfect lineup would have included Cody Ford in the Tier 3 spot, but no one had that combo, so these guys won. And as for me, I'll be over here sporting my I Can't Win Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy shirt, so don't mind me. Be a friend, tell a friend. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Kinsey Osborn, JL Opperman, Casey Greek, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the #1 podcast in ATV racing, with over 164,000 downloads last month in 89 total countries. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. See you at Redbud, with more shows to come between now and then, so stay tuned. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quadlers are freaking gnarly.